what happens within you is somebody witnessed that thing that you're doing bad.
Well, you hope no one witnesses it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
but you're witnessing the witnessing around you. You are the
Well,
witness to the witnesses around you.
this
That
is some
makes you a better
origami
criminal.
witnessing going on. Like you're folding in the origami of the witness.
Yeah, yeah. And the atheist, he just removes the witness of God. God is not there. He's not watching, and it's very easy to do because mostly it is not tangible to us. It's not measurable. It's not, you know, seeable, but it's something that seems to be a fundamental thing in our reality.
Sure. I'm going to rope Eggshells in on this conversation. So,
I'm backing out.
yeah. Let's see how
For
this
real, I'm
goes.
backing out.
So there's a fundamental aspect to reality of which we're trying to articulate, that is of the witness. And they invoke this notion of a triangulation. So a witness is one of the spokes on that triangle, and there's God and Jesus Christ as the potential two other spokes. And the only thing, the way I can rationalize this would be that they need a God creator, that of which is like the source of all, like Jesus Christ like figure as the example of the way, and then a witness as a sort of like the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit sort of principle, in order to sort of make reality sort of all knit together somehow.
Well,
That's
not
the best
only,
I got at
because
this
the
point.
Father also is a witness, and the Son is a witness. So all of them are witnesses.
Okay, they're all witnesses now. Forget everything I said. Like there's no contingent triangulation of these ideas. My bad. Okay.
So,
No, you were just
because what you were
oversimplifying it,
saying,
dude. That's easy because you can easily oversimplify this.
because what you were
Yeah.
saying also sounds similar. Who was it? There's some famous idea that all I know is the phrase that describes it, which is this idea of having a cop in your head, and the cop in the head is like your conscience or that sense of being witnessed or God or laws or your mum or whoever, but the idea of inside your own mind when you go to do some unacceptable deed, you there is a cop in your head that says no, don't do that.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. And usually that's
police.
like your father or mother, like in your head. They kind of brought you up. Don't do this. You know, hit your fingers or something when you're doing something you're not supposed to.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then at some stage we internalize that to say, even if I'm not going to get a rap on the knuckles for doing the wrong thing, I've internalized that external cop to put that cop now in my head to regulate my behavior.
Yeah. But then it depends. Like if your mother and father were like crazy and they were doing horrible things, then that
Yeah.
that barometer would like be a little bit wacky and hard to trust. And that would
Yeah.
maybe impact other relationships in your life.
Yeah, or if you're sleep deprived, psychotic or schizophrenic, right? You might get a
Yeah,
cop in your head
exactly.
that's divorced from reality and the suddenly what seems like the optimal most good choice is now stabbing someone or something weird.
Yeah, like the globe, right?
Sure, yeah.
Just
Could be. I
throwing
mean, I
jabs.
would almost argue that from a flat earther perspective, the globe or the heliocentric model is the attempt to delete the cop in your head. To sort of say, and I'm not saying I believe this, but from a flat earth perspective, like if I get rid of God,
I like that.
then you're trying to get rid of the cop in their head so that then they can do whatever they want. You know, I can have sex out of wedlock or whatever it is.
I suppose a little bit like that. Yeah. The God in your head is an interesting concept. It's like a personal God that follows you around, like telling you what is right and wrong.
Mm, mm.
It's like
And
the
can
little
tell the
devil on
difference
your
between
shoulder.
yeah, and can tell they are inside your head enough to tell the difference between an act of desperation and an act of greed.
Yeah,
How do we get to this topic?
the triangulation of the fundamental sort of components required for reality to manifest.
Triune minimalism.
what he said. So the witness was like it was just an interesting conversation, at least like so far as, I mean, we're not talking about atoms and sort of, you know, whatever it may be. I guess it comes down to at large, wouldn't it be like what governs meaning and purpose? And like, I don't know, Eggshells. Have you got anything for us? I mean, dude, you enact yourself in the world, like you've got priorities. What's the thing that's sort of governing the way that you make decisions?
It's a sort of whole mess of different sort of heuristics, like sort of what would it be if more people did this? What would the world benefit from? It's sort of, if you lack that single clear, it's all written in a book, you kind of have to make it up for yourself. If you're talking in terms of how I decide, how a sort of atheist decides what moral, what good looks like.
Dude,
you're asking the right questions, Risky. Risky, you're asking the right questions. What governs meaning? What governs the law of identity?
Yeah, I don't think anything governs it. But same as meaning. Like, I think each person has their own meaning, which you can see in the difficulty in discerning meaning. Right? Like, it feels like things mean things in some objective sense. If you cause pain, that means you did wrong. And as much is attractive to see that as objective. But I don't think
the law of identity. The law of identity has never been broken, dude. Or the law of non-contradiction. These things, if they can be broken, then knowledge itself would be unattainable. So what gives a human being, right, their identity, and what preserves their identity so that it's not arbitrary?
Why do sometimes men feel like they're women and then start sort of like enacting that in the world?
Well, that's different. We're not talking about genders. We're talking about what makes a human being a human being.
That's a natural phenomenon going on in the world, and they're gender bending, dude. So
I think that as an identity really works as a litmus test for what we're talking about, law of identity. In that, in the pure laws of logic, you can say, well, it hasn't been broken, but like in the messy reality we live in, absolutely married bachelors exist, right? Guys take off their ring and go to the bar and say, I'm not married.
Delusion. No, it's delusional. They're delusional. What makes a male? What makes a man a man? Even like if we're gonna get into the transgender topic, I didn't want to get into that, but if we're gonna get into that this early, fine, so be it. But what makes a man, right? The identity of a man. There's essential properties that make a man a man. Can you come up with one?
Yeah, we can come up with plenty. But why do they sometimes put on dresses?
I'm just saying, we're not talking about delusions. We're talking about what actually is reality, right? In reality, what makes a man a man?
Delusional people exist, so you need to like righteously sort of like give a witness to it. Like, this is a witness to that observation. I'm not saying that they're righteous.
You're not answering my question, dude. You're deflecting.
With them, dude. No, I don't think.
What makes a man, right? A human being, a man. There's essential properties. Can you come up with one essential property that makes a man a man? That if that were to cease being the case, and then you could have an argument, maybe they're no longer a man.
A eunuch, okay?
No, eunuchs are still males. They're still males.
I think because I think you would say, Lion, it's God keeps that thing, right? That God is the decider of what identity is and holds the laws of logic in place, right?
Ultimately, yes, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet, though. little by little, baby steps. So what makes a male a male?
No, if he can jump a couple of steps, like let him go. I mean, you agree with
No,
his
because
notion.
we haven't
Why are you
even we
interrupting
haven't
me?
even because we haven't even got through this. What makes a male a male?
Oh, yeah,
XY
call it
chromosome. What do you want?
Okay, we got
a
chromosomes.
crime,
Bang. Okay, we got
whatever.
chromosomes. Now we're getting somewhere. What else?
A dick.
There's
A
production of
dick,
sperm
dude.
by the
Wow, dude. Finally, a dick, dude. That's an essential
But you
property of a
wait,
male. Hold
wait.
on. It's a
Pause,
penis, dude.
dude.
The reproductive organ is what makes a male a male. That is objective. That
You
is
said a
that
eunuch
is reality.
just earlier. You said a eunuch was still a male.
Right. Eunuch, you know what eunuchs are historically?
Yeah, they have got no balls.
No, not all eunuchs. Some eunuchs were involuntarily castrated when they were young. You know, it was against their will. Other eunuchs, other eunuchs have voluntarily decided to commit themselves to God and live a celibatary lifestyle. Right? They're still eunuchs. It doesn't have to necessarily be
I
castrated.
thought for a eunuch you had to be missing your testicles.
Hold on, dude. And then you have eunuchs that were castrated because they violated a little girl or a little boy, and as a punishment, they get chemically castrated.
Oh, that's
There's
not
three
the
different types of
only-
eunuchs right there.
Not the only cause. Come on.
No, I mean, in ancient Egypt, they would castrate them early on so that they would preserve their
some of
youth
them would
and they wouldn't go through puberty.
Yeah, so they would have become choir boys, right?
Yeah, also the Romans did it to make them because it made them sing nicer, right? They called them castrati.
Yeah, it doesn't really work because what if I was in Iraq and we went over an IED and I lost my leg? I lose my maleness. I lose my essential attribute of maleness. No, I just don't have a leg. I still have all the essential attributes that make me a man.
Exactly, and that's why these categories are. I think the mistake that you make, Lion, and that presuppositionalism makes is it goes, well, we can define reality, right? We can define what real or logic is, and then mistake. It's like a what do you call it again? Where you mistake the map for the territory. It's a like the fallacy of making something real when it's just a concept. Where like we know that cars exist, but if you get to the edges of what a car is, right? If a car that's cut in half, is that still a car?
Yeah. So
four-wheeled vehicle, but you sit on the outside of it. Is that a car or a motorbike? You know,
even if a male,
you'll always end up with these edge cases, but
I'll answer it.
Affect reality. It is the words trying to describe reality.
Even if a male were to completely lose his sexual organ, he'd still be a male because he had a sexual organ and he just lost it. And there's still evidence of that sexual organ having been there. Because unless you completely lost even the like a woman could have a vasectomy done, but she still has the womb, dude. She still had that. And she still has the chromosomes. She still has the identity that comes through, the morphology of a female, like what makes a female, her body type. But these things are all like, you could try to split hairs, right? And be like, well, if we lose all the body and all you have is a head, are they still a female? Ultimately, yes, they're still a female. Biologically, they're still a female. And there's ways to actually test for this. Through DNA.
Yeah. What about
genetics.
What about intersex people? People like Castor Semenya and people born with both organs. Like, I don't think it's quite as clear as you're making it out.
Yeah, those are they're defective.
That's a deviation. That's a deviation.
That's an abomination.
Sure, but if there's a deviation, we cannot be saying, oh, there's this objective category that's all encompassing. But there are edge cases where you've got to either say the category isn't complete, it's not clear, or it is, and there are no edge cases.
Well, the thing
you're
is,
presented with a duality. A duality between two things.
Human beings aren't completely. What's the word? We're not an aseity, right? Unlike God, we can lose our identity. We can die. We can, lose our body parts, our attributes. Unlike God, God can't lose any of his attributes. So in that way, we could ultimately lose. You could die, dude, and you'd cease being a human being.
God is bulletproof.
How do we know that God couldn't? So this is the question. This is where I was going before with this issue of definition and identity. How do we know that about God? How do we know that God couldn't change their attributes, die, or change gender, or change their mind as they appeared
He
to
did.
with the
He did,
rewritten
Eggshells.
laws?
He changed the
Right.
covenant.
Exactly.
I'm s-
Right. So we're saying this
I'm saying that-
unchanging thing also changes.
There's a potential for a
Uh-oh.
human being to stop being a human being, is what I'm saying, right? So like you could, through genetic manipulation, come cease to be a human being. Dude. That is possible. But what makes a human being are essential properties. Now, if you started genetically tinkering yourself and completely change your genetic makeup, then yes, I would be like, yeah, you're no longer a human being.
What do you mean? No. If
Right,
you're
but the
born a
question
human,
I'm
are you
asking
saying
is,
that if you're born a human being, you can not become a human being through the process of, I don't know, what, living?
Transhumanism.
Dude, really? Okay.
Yeah,
but I don't think
you'll
transhumanism
become an
suggests that
abomination.
humans. Well, that's a separate thing. The question I was asking is, how do we know any of these qualities of God? How do we know that God can't change? That seems like if I have the ability to change, then something with more ability than me should have a greater ability to change. I don't understand how a powerful being would be fixed in its form. That seems like a disability.
It's essential properties of God cannot change.
No,
Otherwise, he would not. It would. We're not talking about God.
That's Ria's given the conclusion.
Eggshells.
If I were to
Eggshells.
say an atom cannot change, and you said, why do you think an atom cannot change? I would give you something other than saying an atom cannot change. You can't just.
But it's like in the case of perfection,
it's
it's a little bit different, right? Like, so if you're claiming perfection, you can't be anything less than that. So it's almost like you're boxed in, but it's not a bad thing, right?
We're
You're
talking
not
about an
boxed
identity.
in.
Perfection.
I'm not calling that at all. I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing. I'm just saying how did we come to the conclusion that an all-powerful being was incapable of change?
We're talking about a specific. We're talking about a specific identity, right? That's preserved within the God of the Bible. Now, if you want to talk about this other God that you've made up in your mind, right? Another God, then yeah, we can talk about other gods.
Even of the God of the Bible. The God of the Bible had a new covenant.
Deductively, right? It's due to the contrary of the absurdity of the contrary. We have necessary antecedents, necessary preconditions. These have to be fulfilled in an ultimate being, in a deity that it's ultimate. There's nobody else like it. It's one being.
A layman's way of saying it is, if you're gonna be perfect, then you can't be less than perfect.
Right.
So you are in a sense limited.
Answer even come close to answering the question. That all of those could be true, and the being could change, right?
No, they violate the law of non-contradiction. You can't be a perfect ultimate. You can't be a perfect. Listen, bro. You can't be a perfect ultimate aseity, right? Self-sufficient, and then being able to change or become deficient over time.
But you're adding in deficient, right? Right? You're going, could it change these qualities I've decided it's got? Even if I say, fine, it's got those qualities aren't mutually exclusive with change, right? Could just change its head.
It is. You're talking about essential properties changing over time. That would be a deficiency. You're asking for the God who's perfect, right, and has no deficiency to be deficient.
But why would change imply deficient? If I had long hair and cut it, was I deficient before or deficient after, or did I make a personal choice, both of which were totally fine?
Because the attributes that
and then change it if I'm unchanging.
The essential attributes that we're talking about, essential properties that we're talking about, are what make him perfect, right? So if we were to even change one of those essential properties, he will no longer be perfect. He will no longer be God. He would be deficient. So you're asking for a perfect God to be imperfect.
Does God have long hair?
Not even asking that. I'm just asking, how did you know that this being cannot change? Because one can change without changing at all in one's valence in regards to perfect, right? Sure, if they changed whether they were perfect, then you would have a point, right? But we also don't have evidence that this being is perfect. But I'm just asking, just on this issue of whether they can change. They could change from having long hair to short hair. They could change from having a favorite color. They could change in terms of whether you need to get a circumcision or not. And both choices could be perfect, particularly if they're the only thing that decides what perfection is. So there's nothing of what you've said over the last 5 minutes
Yeah, I already
indicated
explained
why
it to
this
you, bro. It's
king
just,
didn't
you're saying
change.
that there's no evidence. No, there is evidence. They come in inductive form, multiple lines, right? But another thing, you're conflating accidental properties with essential properties. So, like, getting a haircut, having a certain type of color hair, or adding right to yourself isn't the changes that we're talking about. The changes that we're talking about are essential to God's nature. If His essential essence were to change, that'd be a deficiency.
All right. So the essential nature of God's chosen people were that you couldn't become one, right? You couldn't opt into being Jewish, right?
What?
His something essential to who he was having a chosen group of people that was exclusive, and
No,
that
dude,
changed.
you're going off the
Apparently, that
beaten
was
path, dude.
perfect both times. So there is evidence in the Bible that this being changed, at least their mind, if not their overall preferences and rules and a whole bunch of other things. It seems very weird to say this thing can't change.
No, you're not. You're not. We're not. I think we're talking past each other. There's the essential properties, right? Not accidental properties. Essential properties of God cannot change. So God can make new
I've not been
covenants.
talking about accidental properties.
God can create, right? God can create and add to creation, right? God can have new relationships with men that are born, right? Like Abraham walked with God, Enoch walked with God, right? That in that way, God can change in that way. That's not a problem. What I'm talking about are essential properties changing. You're saying, yeah, why couldn't that happen?
No,
Okay,
I
so
haven't said
let
that.
me
I've made it
explain
super clear I'm not saying
accidental.
that.
Let me explain accidental property, right? So if you look at a car, right, you understand what makes a car a car. But if I paint it yellow, right, that's not the essence of the car, right? It's not the
Sure.
essential
Do you
attribute
mean
because you could just change it to a
incidental?
different color and it's still a car, right? So it's a
Sure.
accidental property.
Accidental
So
or incidental properties?
It's
accidental.
accidental. It's not like an accident, like a car accident. It has to do with in philosophy.
Okay.
The study
Sure.
of
So it
being
can
talks about
change.
accidental
It just
properties versus
sure,
essential
but that's
properties.
just saying it can change, but it can't change some fundamental properties. That's fine. That's like saying me as a human, I can change, but certain things I won't, like whether I'm male, I won't change, right? But that doesn't. I still think it fails to answer the question. I think what you're saying is yes, God can change, but just in certain ways cannot.
Yeah.
That I've
Yep.
decided are
It's
fundamental.
not a contradiction. It's not a contradiction. You have essential properties
No, I
and you
didn't
have
say it's a contradiction.
accidental properties. No, I'm just saying because it might sound, people might think like, well, that's a contradiction. No, you have essential properties and accidental properties. You can't conflate the two because one is arbitrary. One is stable and fixed throughout time.
It's just really simply an excuse for the rationality of why reality persists, but what essentially they need to change or update the philosophy that underpins the
Yeah.
sociological
So,
infrastructure. But the
so
means
that
by which they
raises
make the value attributions. Go ahead.
a good point, right? Does the law of identity apply to God?
Yes.
So then it can't be God holding it in place because God is bound by it. Or is the suggestion that God is both creating and holding the law of identity and also held by it?
No, so he's both held by it, right? And that attribute of God is expressed in our creation, in our reality. That's what actually grounds the law of identity.
Well, how could something that's grounded by, like, if the law of identity is grounded by God, it can't also be grounding God, right?
No, it can be because
It's like
the law of identity is literally an
being your own
attribute, and
granddad.
this is what I was trying to talk. This actually one of the essential properties of God, attributes of God, because the laws of logic themselves are grounded in His mind, in His being.
Right. So if they come from him, how are they bound by him?
Well, they don't come from him. If he's eternal, they're a property, then they are necessarily eternal. It's like the question, where did God come from? It has issues.
That's not what I'm asking.
Right,
Yeah,
so you
that's not
just
what I'm
said the law of
asking. I'm not saying
identity
beginning and
comes from God. That's incorrect. Right, it doesn't come
I think you're
from
looking at it in a
anywhere. It just is.
I think you're looking. Yeah, I did say comes from. I didn't mean in a temporal sense like chicken or egg. I mean, if it's like the lawgiver is also bound by these laws, and then that would say to me, okay, well the laws must have been given by some higher thing, or they're a fundamental facet of reality, and existing in reality means one must conform to them.
Fundamental property of his nature, fundamental attribute of his nature. And I use the word express because his attributes can be expressed in our reality. We actually we use the law of identity. We use the law of logic. It's something that we all use together, but it just is. These are axioms of God. They just are. Like Galley was saying. Galley, get in here. Please help me out, dude.
It's just essential attributes. So you have something that's eternal, and there's attributes that something has. Why would those things change if they're eternal? That thing is eternal.
I don't know what that means. I don't get what you're saying.
Okay, so Galley, the covenant with God was changed at the incursion of Jesus Christ. Right or wrong?
It's not relevant. The covenant of God is not an essential attribute of God.
Well, his forgiveness is, right? His love is.
Those are accidents.
Love went to include Gentiles.
Accidents?
Yeah, the covenants are accidents, dude. They're accidental.
That's just
how
not.
How can we tell ahead
of time? His creation.
That's just not relevant to
landed in a pile of shit.
attributes.
No, that would be
the what are essential and what are
God's
accidental?
uncreated grace that we're talking about. Of God.
How do we know what's accidental and what's essential?
The stuff that doesn't change is essential. The stuff that changes is accidental.
So then the things that were in the Old Testament were essential up until Jesus. Then they became accidental. That doesn't make sense. That's busted.
Things
they can't both be essential
you can just
and
say
change.
the things, and you think that's a good claim. The things? What things?
Yeah, you're basing it also in your local reality.
Forgiveness of sins, right? Any number of things that changed in the covenant. If you said, well, they haven't changed, right? They hadn't changed for somebody before Jesus.
What about forgiveness of sins? Once again, you're just being vague. You're just being vague. What about forgiveness of sins has changed?
The blood of the sins weren't washed away by the blood of Jesus. Like, do you pick something from the new covenant, right? Because it doesn't matter what that thing is. What it matters is that was fixed and unchanging for thousands of years, if we're to believe the stories, and then changed. And my question to you was, what determines whether something is accidental or essential? And you went, well, it doesn't change. It hadn't changed for them.
Changed?
So if I was asking, it doesn't matter.
What attribute changed? You're going off on this. This is ridiculous.
I've already answered that.
On a 5-minute tangent. You're going to go off on a 5-minute tangent with completely non sequitur. What attribute changed?
You show me which one you want to talk about or why it's relevant. You describe why it's relevant.
You're the one who's suggesting an attribute change.
I already gave you one.
The covenant with God
We've
changed.
already explained it to you.
That's not an attribute of God. What attribute changed? Why are you asking me to provide it for you, Eggshells? What attribute changed?
Can I maybe interject a little bit, because I can maybe help out? Because if change is contingent upon something, right?
Sure.
Philosophical understanding of change. Yeah, it's contingent upon something.
Require a cause.
Yeah, so that seems to be contingent on creation, time, space, all that stuff, right? The metaphysical stuff. Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
But the question I asked was how do we tell what's the difference?
So God can't contain that change that you're talking about. Like that's
Um,
not the change that is an attribute of God. Like he can't
I'm sure they
change
could,
his
but
identity.
the question I'm asking is, how can we tell what is accidental versus an intrinsic or whatever the word is? I forget what we're using.
Essential.
That we know is essential property. And the only answer I've had so far is it doesn't change.
So there's a category.
That is
There's two
different
categories.
to, let me
Eggshells.
finish. That could change in the future, as it did for ancient Israelites, right? So if that has happened, and they would have used the same heuristic to come to an incorrect answer about what was essential, that they would have said, oh no, what's essential to God's nature is X, Y, or Z, circumcision, the fact that your sins aren't forgiven, the fact that we're an exclusive group that you can't get into, the fact that you've, like, any
All right,
number of the
bro.
things.
All right, dude. You're going on, dude. You have to understand that there are things that are transcendental, eternal, immutable, unchanging, right? When you
How do you
start
know
talking,
which those are?
bro, yeah, it's a necessary antecedent, bro. Preconditions for reality itself.
I
The
think
laws of
one of
logic, the laws of
hang on,
morality
real quick.
versus
One of the
last thing, please.
issues.
Last thing. Versus creation. Creation came into existence, so it's not eternal. Creation is liable to change over time, and anything within it, including natural laws, like the law of entropy, it is liable to change over time. Therefore, it's not an immutable, unchanging property of God. Go ahead.
Sure. So this still doesn't answer my
Actually,
question.
just real quick, you asked how can we tell what is accidental versus essential properties when it comes to God?
Yeah. Yeah.
So an essential property is something God must have to be God. Is that
Right.
simple?
How do we tell what
And then an
those are?
accidental property is something God can have or lack without ceasing to be God.
Right. And I'm saying, how do we tell what those are? Let's say if it's eternalness, right? And we're saying, well, we know that it must be eternal, but the only way we know that, I mean, I don't know how we know that. That's the kind of core question I'm getting at. But if that could change in the future, if God's like, oh yeah, I always had a lifespan, it was 3 billion years, and I'm coming up on my death date in 45 days, and I've always known that, we wouldn't know that yet, right? So that could be something that we view and perceive as an essential quality, that an essential attribute that isn't, right? We're mistakenly thinking it's essential because we think it's a necessary part of being God. But the question I'm asking is, how would we tell? If I picked quality X and I
Don't
said,
make
can
a
you tell me if
second
quality
point. You
X?
can't. Hang on. Stop. You can't say, how do we tell what those are? Make an entire point, and then say, how do we tell what those are? Make a second point. How do we tell what
How do
those
we
are?
tell
The
what those
answer
are?
is,
Just answer.
I can
Just answer the one
answer
question.
that if you let me. You ask a question, and then you make several points. If
Go for it.
removing it
Answer it.
means God, shush. If removing it means God is no longer God, it's essential. If God could lack it and still be God, it's accidental.
Oh my God.
Simple.
That is so circular.
No, it's not.
Yes,
Also, all
you define
you
God by these
know
qualities.
that all. Hang on, you just accused me of a fallacy. You know that all arguments are in a sense circular.
Many of yours might be, sure, but I mean, I don't see how that fixes anything.
Eggshells, why is your logic logical?
I don't know. I haven't said it is. It's not an argument I'm making. Why are you asking?
Okay, so your logic isn't logical. It necessarily is or
That's not what
isn't.
I
Why
said
is your
either.
logic logical?
I haven't made this argument. I don't know why you're trying to make me make an argument that is
You
circular when it's
said
your right. You're
my
making a circular
argument
argument
was
and that's coming from
circular.
my mouth.
You said my argument was circular. So why is
Sure.
your logic logical?
I didn't say it was. It's not an
It
argument I'm making.
necessarily
I'm not
is
making a
or it
circular
isn't.
argument.
It
Sure, it might
necessarily
be.
is or
Maybe
it
it is or it
isn't.
isn't. Maybe it's sometimes. Maybe it's not all the time.
Nope.
Maybe it is depending on how you look at it. It's not an argument I'm making. If you want to show that my logic is circular, then show me that my logic is circular. What you're doing is showing me your logic is circular by
Nope.
trying to stuff it into my mouth and laugh at the circularity. I just won't eat it. Sorry, it doesn't fit in my mouth.
Just for the
Deal with what I
audience,
am.
everyone
What is
has
your
a.
ultimate
So how do we know?
presupposition is what
So
God
what
Just
is?
for
let's
the
list
real
these
quick, because you
qualities.
accused me of a fallacy. Let me address it without you
Sure.
gish gallop a lot. So real quick, everyone has a reason that they think their reasoning is sound. This is circular in a sense, and it's called a virtuous circle, meaning there's a reason for reason, right? So that doesn't mean that just because it's circular, it's invalid. So when I said if removing the property means God is no longer God, it's essential. If God could lack it and still be God, it's accidental. It's not viciously circular. I don't think you know the difference between those two things. But I don't think you know the difference between those two things. I'm actually bringing it back to the point.
Sure, we're staying on the point. Where am I gish galloping? I feel like I'm staying completely on this point about the definition of God and how we know it's true. And you're saying I'm gish galloping. Where did I gish gallop? Which bit was
When you
the
ask
gish
a
gallop?
question, make a point. Ask the question, make a point. Ask a question, make a point. People can't answer all of your questions and your points.
It's the one question. I'm just rephrasing the same question 45 times in the hope that
Then you could
one of
just say,
these
"How
times
do
I
we
might get
tell
an
what
answer.
those are?" I could answer, and you could say
Right?
that's
Yeah, that's the
circular, and
same
I could
question.
explain how it's not circular.
Yeah, so explain how it's not circular.
I already
saying
did.
I'm
I
following
just
God by
did.
qualities.
I
Okay,
just
okay,
did,
guys,
and you were
come.
stuck on. Oh, how was I gish galloping? Did you not listen?
Yeah, well, this like
Let me say something. Let me say
what?
something.
Let's start with somewhere where. What are these essential qualities? Could you list them?
Yeah, this is the ultimate presuppositions we're trying to kind of analyze here.
Yeah. So what is essential to God? I'm guessing that created reality as we know it,
There
like
is a
some sort of
witness.
creation.
We have a
Being a
witness,
witness.
and then
Yeah.
two other things.
Uncontingent, uncreated,
Uncreated. Yeah. Okay. So uncreated,
the beginning.
made creation. So uncreated creator.
Omnipotent,
Then you have the
omniscient,
metaphysical categories in philosophy, like change.
omnibenevolent.
It's not an attribute of God, but it's
Yeah.
somehow an attribute of the system that God created. That has meaning.
And this is the thing. This is exactly it. How would we be able to tell the difference? Even if we accepted all of this is true, how would we be able to tell the difference between things that are inherent to the system and aren't intrinsic to God's nature, but are just like part of reality as we know it? We're mistakenly going, oh, that's the unchanging nature of God, right? Like if we
Eggshells.
just pick benevolent, right?
It would take hours of discussion, hours,
Well,
to answer
I
that
think
question.
that's
Can I maybe focus
now.
that? Can I maybe focus our discussion about like entropy? You're aware of entropy, right? Eggshells.
Sure. Yep.
Are you aware of ectropy? EC trophy.
Isn't that? I'm guessing that's the idea of like what living organisms do, which is the opposite of entropy. Is that right?
Yeah, that which consists and holds us together. That
Sure.
it's also kind of like life.
Sure.
Yeah, that would be like a necessary attribute of God.
Okay. And how would we tell that attribute was necessary rather than just maybe it's there, we haven't seen it change yet, but we've only been around for a little bit for something that's eternal? How do we know that that's not just an accidental attribute?
Because it seems to have meaning. Like if you look at a flower, it seems to have very simple meaning.
How does the meaningness tell us that it's essential?
Like without it, what would reality be?
But that's just a question. It doesn't give us an answer.
Exactly, but it's pointing to us to an answer. It's pointing to an answer that is like the impossibility of the contrary. Like it's a necessary attribute of our existence.
And what tells us it's necessary? We're still at the same question.
No, he already answered it, bro. It's just everything's being sustained, right? The law of identity is being sustained.
How do
the
you know
fact
that?
that it's being sustained is evidence. Now, unless you want to assert the contrary, that the law of identity is not being sustained, he's got it. We have the argument due to the absurdity of the contrary. You would have to say that the laws of logic are not being sustained, which is obviously not the case.
But no, that's smuggling in your assumption, right? You're saying, well, they're being sustained by something. I can say they're being sustained, but I could say they're being sustained by reality, by the absurdity of the contrary.
Okay, that's fine. You can
let me finish. The absurdity of the opposite says they couldn't be any other way, right? Your own argument defeats itself. We couldn't need anything to make anything be something something other than what it couldn't be, right?
That's the
No, the
evidence.
claim is the law of identity is necessary. You said, how do you know that? Because if the law of identity,
Wrong.
stop.
I didn't ask how do I know it's necessary. It's just not what I
Yes,
do.
you did.
You're not arguing.
Yes, you did. Gilly said the law of identity is necessary. You said, how do you know that? And then Lion said the absurdity of the contrary. That's what you're refuting right now. Just because you get lost, because you say so many things, just because you get lost in what people say doesn't mean that other people get lost in what people say. So that's exactly where you were at when you said, how do you know that? That's what Lion was answering. So I'll retract for you. Gilly said the law of identity is necessary. You said, how do you know that? Lion said, because the impossibility of the contrary. You started refuting that. You didn't even know what you were refuting.
Man, you need to chill. I get that for some reason I treat you, but that's not what I was challenging.
That's what you were answering. You were refuting Lion's answer to your question, how do you know that, to Gilly's claim the law of identity is necessary.
Yeah, and I can maybe just continue.
Keep up.
You cannot get A from non-A. A is a container.
I'm not fussed about that.
And life,
Eggshells
what I was pointing at is
Can I clarify? Can I clarify?
Eggshells respond?
If it's just the Galley side,
go ahead. No problem.
it's not about the necessity of the law of identity. It's about the origin of it. Does it come from somewhere? Or is the simple statement A is always A and not A necessarily true? And as such, how do we know it came from somewhere? It isn't just like obviously true that any universe, God or not God, would necessarily have to have that for exactly the reason Lion said, because the opposite would be absurd, and an absurd universe can't exist. So
it's in the word necessary.
Let me finish. It's not about whether it's true that it is true. It's about whether it comes from a specific place or just is necessarily true as a nature of reality being real.
Real quick, hold on. Gilly can go after me. Bro, that's a whole nother argument. We can address that argument too.
It's the one argument.
That gets into the precept. That gets into the precept argument and an infinite regression and why a mind is needed, not just reality itself, right? Something external to our reality. We can get into that conversation, but we were talking about prior to that conversation. You're already denying the law of identity, dude.
No, I'm not. Fuck's sake. Jesus, get yourself a notebook.
No, I think you're onto something.
Not denying law of identity. Not denying law of identity.
No,
I'm just saying. I'm
just
questioning.
Looking for the
how
source.
do we know it comes from a God? When the God necessarily must also be bound by it, because God can't be both God and not God, right? Fuck.
Yeah.
I feel like what I'm saying is very simple.
This is the fundamental bridge, brother. This is the fundamental bridge that you're on a crossroads. And you have these two worldviews, and one of them says that you can get A from non-A. You can't get life from non-life. One of the worldviews says that in the scientific journals.
That's two different things.
And then the other view says life comes from God, and that's the fundamental question that's being answered. And then the justification for that is the previous 2-hour discussion that we've been having.
But that's two separate things, right? Because otherwise, if we dove into what we define life as, we would probably define it in opposition to death. And one of the core attributes we might find to life is that it starts and ends, right? And then we would say, if life must come from life, then God cannot be alive, because we cannot have a period that is pre-God, pre-life, right? So God's always been alive, so it's now violating one of the rules we set up for what it means to be alive. God also can't die, therefore it's also violating this other rule we seem to observe about things that are alive. So you're mixing two things there. And again, we don't need to get into the worldview of saying
we
is the law of identity violated. Just whether it comes from a necessary being, where it necessarily comes from.
Let Gilly go.
Listen. We have life for a short period. That's what we have. Yeah. And then we lose that life. But then you have this fundamental category of what is eternal life. And that's an attribute of God. That's an attribute of God that needs to be in order for it to be something that is brief.
Eggshells, hold on. Eggshells, hold on. hold on, dude. Reality itself, right, requires necessary preconditions, right? You have the law of causality. You have the law of identity. These are principles, axioms, right? These things don't have to be proven with science, right? With like a scientific method. These things just are. With that being said, right? These arguments have already been fleshed out, right? Why can't the law of identity be grounded in reality? Like the earth, Gaia. Let's use Gaia, right? Why can't the law of identity be grounded in Gaia? Because the law of identity requires a mind. That mind is external to our reality. Our reality had a beginning. The Asaitic deity that we believe in as Christians, right, it doesn't have a beginning.
Yeah, I feel
And
like it's just, again, you just state your conclusion rather than showing your
so life can't come from non-life, right? Our reality came from life. It was brought forth by an intelligent mind. It required intent, a designer.
Do you know what I mean, Lion, when I say you just assert your conclusion? Do you know what I mean when I say that?
No, it's not asserting. It's not begging the question. I know you think it's a vicious circle.
Do you know why I say it? Do you get what I mean when I say it?
Bro, stop. You keep doing this to us, dude. You keep doing this to us.
I get that it's wrong.
It's not a vicious circle. It's not affirming the consequent, dude. It's not that. You keep calling it that because you don't understand. You don't understand how you just said it.
I'm just asking if you understand what I mean when I say those words.
Yeah, you think it's a vicious circle. You think it's begging the question, affirming the consequent. No, our premises are defended with sound logic, with evidences. They can come in the form of the transcendental argument, the precept argument, or I can use the teleological argument, right? The fine-tuning, irreducible complexity to actually defend my premise that creation itself was created by a designer. That designer has to be distinct from creation, right? There's a distinction between the creator and the creation.
Galley, before when you were saying I was gish galloping, this is what a gish gallop is, right? Multiple different topics in a row.
No, that was one singular point.
Same question, making the same point was what I was doing. That was making 4 separate arguments for the existence of God, rather than answering the question, do you get what I mean when I say you're
No, that was one singular point. If you think they were separate arguments, just say what they are.
You're asking us. There's 2 different arguments here.
What we're talking about now, which is about definitions.
There's 2 different arguments here that have to be fleshed out, right? These arguments are extremely complex, right? And we need to be able to unpack them. I'm not trying to gish gallop you, bro. But you're asking me, how can we guarantee that the laws of identity and non-contradiction are universal and absolute and unchanging and immutable? How do we know that? Right? That's how it started. That's how it started. Hold on. That's how it started. And then it moved on to, well, how do we know that the law of identity isn't grounded in reality itself? Nature.
Wrong. 100% wrong. I've said the opposite of that 4 times now.
Go ahead. Restate your argument. Go ahead. Restate your argument. So restate it.
I've said they are true. The question is, where do they come from?
And what did you say? Where did you hypothesize? Where did you hypothesize they came from?
There's no point in me repeating it again unless you're going to show that you've heard it this time.
Come on,
what do I think about the law of identity?
The question of where did they come from is the same as what he's saying, because it's implying they're not necessary.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No. Say again, why? Why do you think that?
Because it's loaded. It's implying they're not necessary. They come from somewhere.
No. Saying they're necessary doesn't, like, something could be necessarily true or necessary and still not be brought about by a being, right?
Wait, so you said that they were brought about by what?
Brought about by a being. No one is saying they're brought about by a being. Do you mean grounded in a being when you say brought about or come from? Because if you mean like come from or brought about, meaning as in at some point they poofed into existence, that is not what necessarily true means.
Sure, I just want to. I'm still asking a question.
Eggshells, wait. Eggshells,
demonstrate you've heard my point. Otherwise, there's just no point.
I'm trying to clarify because
I'm saying that the law of identity can be violated, and there's no fucking point.
Yo, come on, dude. Eggshells, dude, chill out, bro. I'm trying to talk to you. What he's doing right now, he's deflecting. Eggshells, listen. Where did you hypothesize that the law of identity was grounded in?
I don't think it's grounded in anything. I think we're describing reality.
All right. Well,
Just
you did say, well, why can't it be grounded in reality? Like what do you mean by reality?
I just don't.
The universe,
I'm
right?
not sure that the law. So temperature exists, right? And we make thermometers and ways to define it, like Celsius and Fahrenheit. That doesn't mean
You're not answering my question. No,
temperature.
Eggshells, you're deflecting
Let me
again,
answer.
dude. No, I asked you a direct question. Where did you imply? Where did you hypothesize that the law of identity was grounded in? You said in reality, did you not?
I'm answering that question.
When you say reality, what do you mean by reality? I want to clarify. What do you mean by reality?
Yeah, I was in the process of giving you that answer, and you interrupted.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
Temperature just exists, right? Molecules vibrate, right? We can define that. It doesn't mean temperature itself needs to be grounded in something, right? I don't think all things need grounding. I don't actually know what grounding is, but I certainly don't think that we can just say because A is always A and not A, therefore go. That's the question I'm trying to get to, right? So I don't think that it needs grounding, but if you press me on it, I can go find reality. Things that are real can't also be not real, and reality decides that. But this core question of grounding, I've not seen a necessity for something as obvious that something is what it is and it's not what it's not needs any necessity for a being to make that so, right? To ground it, which is the core question we're asking, right? So while the law of identity might be true, the question is, does it need grounding in anything? I haven't been shown anything that seems to suggest that's the case. In fact, it seems to posit a counterfactual and then go, that counterfactual is so ridiculous that my answer must be true.
If it's true and necessarily true, it needs to be grounded in something. It's in the word necessarily.
Yeah, sure. Can you show that though when it comes to the law of identity that it must be necessarily?
You can show it in the definition of necessarily. Sure. So if something is true and necessarily true, it needs a grounding. It's in the word necessary.
Right, and what stops that grounding just being that it must be the case? This is us describing reality, like Celsius.
It's in the word necessary. Keep up.
Yeah, either the law of identity, either the law of identity is eternal, immutable, and unchanging, or it poofed into existence over time due to probabilistic accidents. Which one do you think is the most logical?
Neither of those. Both of those are deeply illogical, and which is why I didn't posit them. You did. Nope. I don't posit wildly illogical things.
Nope.
That's a true dichotomy. He said either the law of identity is eternal, immutable, and always was, always will be, or not. That's a true dichotomy. It's not, I'm going to go with a third option. What's the third option then?
Didn't say there was. I'm just saying.
Okay, so then which option are you choosing?
He said they're both
I don't think it made that super, super clear. Reality is real. It can't be both real and not real at the same time. I don't think any being would be required or anything would be required to ground that. That's just like
that's the circularity and the reason.
Not hot. It seems so absurd and self-referential and meaningless too. It doesn't seem to get us anywhere. It doesn't seem to have any utility or functional value to it. It just seems
right. That's your position. I agree.
No, I'll explain.
That's your position. Your position is that it doesn't get you anywhere.
This is the thing with objective thinking. Like if you're measuring a temperature or something, it doesn't have any meaning. There's no meaning in measuring stuff. So that's the issue with the objective thinking or the scientific method. It's a limited way of describing reality in its whole. Because you have the opposite of that, which is subjective thinking. It's like my feelings, and this is how I feel. This is my truth, and this is how I deal with the world. That's the opposite of objective thinking. You're basing it all on something that you can't measure. But then you have the participatory in between, which is you're in it. You're living it. You're participating in it. And you're doing
So let's
something
explore
that either has no meaning, just a completely meaningless existence. There's no right or wrong, up or down, or true or false, or it's just an opinion. And then you just live your life like that. That's nobody's stopping you from it. But what we are presenting is evidence that meaning needs to have a ultimate source. It just has to be.
Yeah, that's what we're trying
To
to
the
explore. So
contrary
if
of
we're
the
saying the law of
being
God,
just
the law
absurd.
of God's identity is that if we pick that one, omnibenevolent, right? And is that one of these what is essential qualities?
Yes.
So God couldn't be God. It is necessarily the case that God would violate the law of non-contradiction if God was a creator, was eternal, was an uncaused cause, was every other one of those things, but just wasn't all loving. Sometimes was terrible and ferocious and angry and lacked love. And so it was benevolent sometimes, but not omnibenevolent. Would that God then violate the law of identity?
Yes.
Okay.
He would
how
cease
do
to
we
be
Yeah,
God.
you'd be refuting a different God. Yep. Because the God, right? So the ultimate God would have those essential properties.
How do we decide that?
Logically, bro,
How do we decide?
it requires. Yeah, dude, it's a lot, dude.
Walk me through the logic. So we have this God that's eternal.
But hold on, we haven't even got through the
All
previous
reality
topic,
exists.
dude. Hold on a second,
But
dude.
this is still on it. It's still on it, right? We're talking about
No,
identity,
hold on,
right?
bro, because when we consider the contrary view, right? The contrary view states that the law of identity and all these other principles of logic and geometry that they came about over time, right? That they just poofed into existence over time out of chaos. How do you
That's
get
not my
order
view.
out of chaos that would
That's not
violate
my
the law
view.
of causality? Hold on, dude.
Sure.
And I'm not whether it's your view or not. This is a true dichotomy, dude. Because you don't understand,
Yeah, I
right?
agree with you. I
Either
agree
you
with
have
your
dude, bro, chill out. Either you have an infinite regression fallacy, right, where you reduce all of reality to probabilistic fluctuations in some quantum field, and then beyond that, literally you reduce reality to nothing, something that's not conscious, something that's not intelligent, or there's a necessary reference point for all intelligibility, and that reference point is what we call source, where Aristotle called the prime mover, and it has a mind, it's intelligent, it's emotionally intelligent, and within it, it has eternal principles that we know as the laws of logic. It is it, right? So this diner created all reality. So reality itself, including us, came from life, not non-life, not probabilistic accidents over time, which is impossible. You understand that?
Right. I'm not arguing any of those things. I'm saying use these laws of logic. Show me how they work right now in order to reason that the God that has all of the other essential and accidental qualities of God just lacks this one of omnibenevolence, that it is not a benevolent deity, not all the time, not to all people, right? Show me how that would be logically impossible. So could a
I tell you,
all-powerful, eternal being, omnipotent being, not be loving? That's the first
yeah.
question. Just a yes
If
or no answer.
God, I'll
Just a
explain
yes
to
or no
you.
answer.
I'll explain to you. I already said no, dude. So I'll explain to you why. If God
Okay.
was disorderly, right? Because he is actus
No,
purus. He's a pure act. Everything that he does is orderly, computational, constructive. If God were to be disorderly, if God were to lie, which he cannot do, he would no longer be God because he would violate the law of contradiction, and also
right.
it would violate his identity.
But that's so. I'm not saying about disordered. I'm not saying about lying. I'm just talking about benevolence. And I'm saying, can you show me a logical contradiction in an all-powerful, omniscient, uncaused cause, a creator that is eternal, has all of those other qualities? Can you show, just put it aside from your perceived God in the moment and just deal with the pure logic of this? And your pure logic must answer, yes, it is
You're not
definitely
listening, dude.
possible that such a being could logically exist. There is
No.
what law, otherwise, what law was it violate? Go for it. What law of logic does such a God violate?
Another God could exist that's malevolent, that's evil, right? But not the God, not the ultimate aseity, that's self-sufficient and perfect. Perfect order can only flow from a perfect deity, dude. So when you're invoking this idea that God would be evil, i.e., malevolent, not all benevolent, but malevolent, evil is by its very category a privation, a lack of order, a lack of good, a lack of love. God would then not be God.
Well, I mean, you could equally say a benevolent God has a privation of malice, right? So that doesn't work. That doesn't work in your favor at all, right? If something
Evil
lacks
is a
the ability to be
privation.
malicious, then
God is
it's
not deficient, right? He's
well, but
self-sufficient. If he were to be
that's a
evil, if
subjective
he were
view.
to be malevolent, which is a lack of order, a lack of goodness, he will no longer be God.
But then I could just say being good is a lack of evil, right? It's not. What I'm saying is you need to show not
No,
just in your
wrong,
opinion or in your
wrong.
reasoning or in your scripture. You need to show why the laws of logic would prevent such a being from existing.
Wrong, dude. You're all over the place, dude. Being
No,
good is not
we're
a
all in
lack
one
of evil. Being good, dude. Evil is a lack of good. Good is not contingent on evil, dude. You understand that? Evil is contingent on good. Evil is parasitic. It relies on good for its existence.
How did you decide that?
This is logical, dude. I don't need a scientific experiment. I just explained
Shouting it's logical
it to
doesn't
you.
show me it's
I just gave
logical.
you a deductive argument. I just gave it to
Okay,
you.
what's the so give me the deductive argument again?
Good, right? Good is how'd I say it?
You gotta start with words have definitions. That's got to be the start of your argument, because he's asking, how did you decide that those words mean those words?
Good is non-contingent. Okay, good is non-contingent, right? Good does not rely on evil for its existence. Good exists on
and I
its
don't agree
own.
with that.
Evil relies on good for its existence. It's a privation of good, just like darkness is the lack of light. Light can exist on its own. Light doesn't need darkness to exist. You understand that?
Sure, I agree with that on light, right? You could certainly say that with light, where you say we can detect where it is and where it isn't we call darkness. But I don't think you've made that case for evil, right? Show me that being true, necessarily logically true for the case of evil.
Yeah, computationally, right? Evil is disorder. Evil is a privation. It's a lack of love, a lack of goodness. So evil takes away from goodness.
So let me think of a way to test this. Could a world exist that was just evil? Everybody's out killing one another, being jealous, being greedy, murdering, raping, having sex out of wedlock, men marrying men, all of those things. Could a world like that exist with no good in it?
No, because there's something that's good that's sustaining our. No, God is good, and God sustains reality itself. That's the only reason that even in a world filled with iniquity, that it's still persisting, and that you wake up every morning, right? Because there's something sustaining reality that's ultimately good.
Do you see what I mean? This is, again, you're just going back to asserting your conclusion. You need to show that it's true, not just claim that it's true, right?
This is the necessary antecedent, bro.
Logically it's impossible. Right, but
it's
you need
the
to show
necessary antecedent, dude.
Just keep claiming it, though. All right, I've decided the necessary antecedent for good is evil. That goodness cannot exist without evil. I've decided that's the necessary antecedent. I don't need to show you because I just get to claim it somehow. Yeah, sure. Evil can exist in the absence of good. You could have a room with 4 people who don't give a fuck, and neither good nor bad. They're just like,
no, fundamentally though,
don't give a fuck either way. And then you could have a remaining 6 people who are evil, and there is no law of logic that is violated by that. Hence, evil can exist in the absence of good. Hence, you are wrong.
No, contingently though. Contingently, what is fundamentally sustaining reality? What's sustaining reality is orderly, right? Because you have to understand computationally, right? You have constructive order, right? And then you have destructiveness, i.e., evil, takes away from perfect order. So something had to create our reality, something that is good, computationally constructed our reality. Otherwise, if it was purely evil, purely destructive, it would have teared down reality to its fundamental core. There would be no existence. So you're relying, evil has to rely on order. Evil has to rely on order for its existence.
but that's conflating. That's necessarily linking evil with destruction. I'm not sure that's the case. I could be evil and construct massive, orderly, whatever. In fact, it would be more advantageous, right? The more evil I was, the more suffering I wanted to spread, let's say, the more effective it would be to do so in an orderly way. There's nothing in what you said there shows that evil is necessarily disorderly.
You're mixing good and evil together, right? So human beings are both good and evil, right? We can be constructive and orderly and still be evil, right? When we talk about evil fundamentally, like from the fabric of the universe, from the building blocks of the universe, something is computationally creating the universe, right? Constructively creating the universe. Evil, by its very definition, is disorderly. It's disorder. So evil is chaotic. It's chaos.
Why? How did you decide that? You're now adding in things that aren't there, right? Evil doesn't have to be chaos, right? You can have an orderly
evil. It's identity, bro. Correct? It's the law of identity. Going back to evil is identified as disorder.
Hang on, no, that violates the law of identity. If you're saying it's a law of identity, you're actually closer to getting it wrong, right? Because that's saying evil is not evil. Evil is now disorder, right? But there are many things that are loving that are disordered, and there are many things that are orderly.
You're conflating evil categories. That's all it is. You're conflating categories.
The law of identity. You're making.
No, I'm not violating the law of identity. You are. You're trying to make good evil and evil good.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm just trying to get you to make a logical, rational case for why a being could have all of these qualities that you claim that God has, but just lack this one of omnibenevolence. Because here's a strong case for it. If you read the Old Testament, there's not much that is all loving about that being, right? I think it even describes itself as a jealous God. And jealousy isn't what I would call love, right? Jealousy is to me far closer to evil, right? Vengeance to me is far closer to evil.
What you're
the
asking
annihilation
for,
of people groups is what I would call evil. The demanding of bags fulls of foreskins, to me, strikes me as evil. So the idea of this being is necessarily omnibenevolent seems
you're being
absurd.
Unreasonable, Eggshells. You're being unreasonable because you're making a judgment call, right? You're judging God for his actions in the Old Testament. You're putting yourself above God, saying that God is immoral or evil. Who are you to judge the creator of heaven and earth and say that he's immoral for the things he's done in the Old Testament? That's very hubris of you. But what you're asking for, though, what you're asking for, right? You're asking for God to be God, which is an ultimate aseity of perfection, and his nature is of ultimate perfection. You're asking him to be malevolent, to be evil. If God were evil, hypothetically evil, it would violate his identity, and it would violate the law of non-contradiction.
Right, that's the bit we're trying to get at. So to clarify for you, I'm not saying God is malevolent. I'm not questioning God's goodness. I'm just questioning the logical necessity of goodness in the creator. That's it, right? Because what I'm suggesting to you is not that God's evil, but that people who believed in a being, the ancient Israelites, right, believed that their God was the creator, believed most of the other essential qualities that you give God. But I think if you said, is he all loving? Does he love all beings equally? They would have resoundingly said no. And I'm not even saying that's true. I'm just saying what that shows is there are large numbers of people who don't see that as a contradiction. I don't see that as a contradiction. I think it is entirely logically consistent to say that there could be an all-powerful being that is eternal, that's an uncaused cause, a creator that wasn't created, all of that shit, but just doesn't happen to have the one quality of omnibenevolence. It could be very benevolent, but is horrendous towards certain groups of people. Right?
Yeah, but you understand that would
none of that entails a logical because that
reality itself would collapse. It would be self-defeating, dude.
Why?
Because it's like the God of the Quran. Because if God were malevolent, that means that the law of non-contradiction could not be preserved, and the law of identity could not be preserved. It would be arbitrary and liable to change over time because there's nothing grounding it because God could lie.
Sure.
So the God of the Bible, he cannot lie. He cannot be malevolent. If he were malevolent, there's nothing grounding. Logic itself would be unattainable. Knowledge itself would be unattainable because God could always lie, and things that seem to be true would change over time.
Yeah, I really feel like we need to get to the bottom more of the question I asked before. Do you get what I mean when I say you're stating your conclusion as a premise?
No,
Like,
it's not
the
a
question
vicious.
we're trying to work
It's not a
towards.
It's not begging the question. It's not begging the question.
No,
It's
that's not what
going
I
as
said.
a
That's not what I said.
virtuous
That's not what I
circle.
said.
Asserting the
That's
conclusion
not what I
is
said.
begging the question, dude.
It's very similar, but I'm just saying, as a conversational
This
thing,
guy, dude.
we need to move step by step to say, here's how we know that these qualities necessarily correlate with all goodness before you can say, therefore, the being that created us was necessarily good, right? We need to do those steps. I'm not saying it is that the logic isn't there. It might be, and that would be more begging the question. I'm just saying, conversationally, you just keep jumping right to the end and repeating your conclusion rather than walking me there with you.
No, dude. You have to understand that in a virtuous circle, right? It might seem like it might seem like begging the question, affirming the consequent, i.e., asserting the conclusion, right? But in my argument, the premise is sound because it's backed with evidence. The evidence comes in the form of a deductive argument known as modus ponens, right? The evidence comes in the form of the absurdity of the contrary.
Okay, give me the modus ponens. That'll help us. That's exactly what I'm asking for. What's the modus ponens?
Bro, I'm not gonna pull up my notebook. I'm literally laying in bed, dude.
All right, but
You want me to
let's
write it
try to
out for you,
construct
bro?
it now
Like,
together. Could a somewhat loving being, in a moment of love and order, even if I were to accept all your rules about order, because remember, this being is infinitely powerful, right? So I think an infinitely powerful being could create a ordered universe, even if they themselves had moments of being disordered and evil. So I could still agree to all of that, and we still haven't violated any laws of logic, right?
no, bro, you don't understand,
Right?
dude. God, the
Yeah, I know,
ultimate,
that's true.
the
That's what I'm
ultimate aseity cannot violate the law of identity or the law of non-contradiction, which would have to
bingo.
be the
Agreed.
case if he were malevolent.
Right. Which law of identity would he break? Which identity? Sorry, or which law of logic? If it's not the law of identity, how
Yeah,
would it be broken? Because we can
the
say that with other things. You know? Where if you said about a married bachelor, right, where you say law of identity can't be broken, and the identity of what it is to be a bachelor is to not have a partner, or not be married, and that is a union that's lasting, whatever, however you want to define marriage. Therefore, this thing that has been married, hasn't had it annulled yet, is still married, violates that law because we set the thing as A, and this is clearly now not A, right? And so we've got these clear definitions that unless somebody here is going to say, no, marriage isn't that thing, we can
it's not
say,
it's yeah, yeah,
so
it's
a
not.
married bachelor does violate the law of non-contradiction. And I'm saying, can you give me that same stepwise logical
Yeah,
conclusion?
yeah, it's not. It's incoherent. It's not possible.
Yeah, show me that is what I'm saying. Show me that this one is coherent and an
Yeah,
alternative would be
yeah,
incoherent.
you'd have to. No, the burden of proof is on you. You'd have to provide evidence that the law of identity can be violated or the law of non-contradiction can be violated.
Nope. Again, remember, I raised my voice last time you made this mistake. Please get out your pen. You are going to have to get out of bed and get your pen. I am not suggesting the law of identity can be violated. Can you write that down, please?
No, that
Please,
is the case
please.
because if you're talking about the ultimate aseity that's actually preserving the laws of logic, if you're saying that why can't the ultimate aseity that's preserving the laws of logic violate the laws of logic? You
Nope.
would have to provide. You would have to provide a logical argument for that case. There isn't one. It's an incoherent. It's incoherent.
Yeah, I have. Well, okay, I have. I'll make it for you again. An all-powerful being has the power to do anything, right, necessarily. Okay, you could limit it to saying anything except things that would violate the laws of logic, which I think make more sense. So that being would be able to create a world, correct? I haven't violated any laws yet, have I? An all-powerful being must have the power to create a world, correct or incorrect?
Correct.
Fantastic. We're done then. All done.
What done
Because
about
it's got
what?
that power. Not having that power would mean it didn't have that power. Therefore, if it is all powerful, if that is its identity as all powerful, then it must have every power.
Yeah, I got
gotta
you.
create a
Jeremy,
God.
Jeremy makes this mistake all the time, not to call him out. So you know what omnipotent means? All powerful. You know what that means? What that entails?
Say again.
All powerful. You know what that entails?
Yeah, I'd just say has any ability except one's, and then, well, I would even question whether one would be bound by the laws of logic if one was all powerful. One,
Exactly.
I guess,
So this
might be
is the
able to
thing. This is
violate
where
laws of
people
logic.
mess.
But
They
let's
think
go
when
with, and it has any power that it wouldn't violate laws of logic.
right. This is what people
Climb any
they think
mountain,
all
could create
powerful.
anything.
They think all powerful means complete unrestrained, like God could lie, God could steal, God could do evil things. That's not what all powerful means. All powerful, when you look it up, potentia in the Latin means everything that's logically possible in reality,
Right.
with
That's what I
potential,
said, right? And
right? So
something
what
Is this
is
strictly one-on-one?
what?
Nope.
Hold on, real quick. I'm almost. Let me just say this. So when we talk about God being omnipotent, yeah, He can do all things within possibilities, within potential. So it's not the God does not have the potential to lie. God does not have the potential to be evil. That's not within possibility.
Yeah, see, that seems to me like a contradiction, right? I have the
No,
power to lie. I do on
no,
occasion, right?
that's not. No, lying again. You're confusing entities and privations. Lying is a privation. It's not. It's not a positive action. It's a negative action. You're taken away from perfect order, right? So when it comes to God being perfect, you're at.
Lie is the opposite of
You
privation.
hold on, bro. I'm trying to explain to you. You're conflating categories. You're conflating privations with entities. Lying is a privation. God cannot lie because God is perfect, right? He can. The only thing that comes from Him is perfect order. You're asking for God to violate His identity, to violate His nature, which is actually a perfection, right, of His nature. You're asking Him to
Okay,
lie.
I feel that
You're asking Him to be
I don't feel
evil.
that's true, but I don't feel it's worth getting into because I think that we've already got to most of the conclusion, and the whether he could lie seems like it's going to be a sidetrack from that.
No,
It seems we got to the point, right? But I'm still putting it aside. It seems we got to the point where we agree that an all-powerful being could create a world. They could create a universe too, I presume.
Yeah. He can create universes.
Okay.
That's within possibility. That's within His potential.
Right. No,
Can an
I'm just saying.
all-powerful being that lies create the universe?
Exactly.
That's so you're asking for an impossibility, an all-powerful
Right.
being that
No,
lies.
no.
That's incoherent. You can't have an all-powerful being
Why is
that
that
lies,
incoherent?
because then he wouldn't be all-powerful if he could lie.
No,
Lying is a defect.
you're
Lying is
saying
a
the reason
defect,
why
dude. Lying
Why is
is a
lying a
defect.
defect?
Being evil is a defect. You're asking for an all-powerful being to lie. That's incoherent.
Why is it incoherent?
no,
Like,
it's
think about it. Think about
incoherent.
You're
logically.
conflating
It's
categories, dude.
incoherent.
You're conflating
It's
privations with entities, dude.
We get what you're saying about
It's only
privation, but think about it
incoherent
like.
lying. It's only incoherent if he's omnibenevolent. That's the only
Benevolent,
reason why
yeah.
it's incoherent.
Nope. It's
Yeah.
both. It's both.
But it's also because of the way you define
And
truth.
I actually wouldn't even agree with that, because I think it's a kind thing to say to someone. Like, if you think that they actually look ugly, but you just want them to have a good day, say, like, you look very pretty in that dress. I don't think that means, like, even though that's a lie, I don't think that means you're not benevolent. I can't fucking say the
We're not
word.
talking
All
about
good.
human beings. We're talking about
benevolent.
God, dude. The ultimate aseity. It cannot lie. The fact that He cannot lie isn't a limitation, right? The fact that He cannot lie is a good thing. He doesn't have a defect. Lying is a defect. Being
But I
evil
don't
is a
think it is.
Have you
defect.
ever
I think
lied?
an inability to lie is
Lying.
absolutely a defect.
Yeah, lying. Have you ever lied to say something nice to someone?
That's logically irrelevant. That's a non sequitur, bro.
It's not.
But let's
It's
think
not.
about it.
It's absolutely relevant.
Ultimately, you should never lie.
What is good?
Lying is not justified. Sinning is not justified. The point here that I'm trying to make is that you guys are trying to put deficiencies on God and acting like the fact that He isn't deficient is a limitation.
Let me ask you something. If you were to give like a confession to the priest, and then someone goes up to the priest and says, "Did lying confess to this crime?" Even if you did do that crime, should the priest lie to that person?
No, you don't have. The priest doesn't have to lie. You don't have to lie, dude. This idea that you have to lie. No, you don't, bro.
If he doesn't say yes, that lying did commit that crime,
No, that's
would
a false
he not be lying?
No, that's a false dilemma, actually. False dilemma. Try again.
So
there's always a way out.
I'm not sure.
You don't have to justify sin.
I don't get quite why we're on the lying thing. I think that we can just stay on the idea of, well, maybe we do actually need to deal with the lying thing, right?
Because lying is evil, dude, and I'm trying to something tangible that we can munch on. Just being evil is too ambiguous.
Well, but it's not always evil to lie, right? That's clear that it's not always evil to lie. If a madman was asking you how to construct an atom bomb, then lying would be a good thing, right?
You don't have to lie ever. You never have to justify lying.
It's not a privation, right? It is an addition. It's a creation. A lie understands what the truth is and then adds something else to that picks parts of what's true, picks parts of what's not. Sorry, doesn't pick parts of what's not, invents parts of what's not and makes something else there. So you could say it's evil. You could say that God has other attributes that prevents it from lying or all manner of things. But it doesn't, like what you are doing to try to make it violate laws of identity is adding bits into the identity. Right?
No, bro, lying is a deficiency. Lying is a defect, bro. It's a privation. Doesn't matter how many times you
assert that that's false, and you haven't. You've asserted.
Lying is a defect, dude. Lying is always wrong.
It's always wrong. Okay,
always
so
wrong.
I came to your house and I was slathering at the teeth, foaming at the mouth, carrying an axe and a knife, and I said, "Where's your daughter?" It would be evil. It would be wrong to say I don't have a daughter, and the truly moral act is to say first bedroom on the right.
Nope, lying is always wrong, dude.
Okay, that's
you have to understand. This is the Masonic doctrine, right? The ends justifies the means. So let's lie to the population for the greater good, right?
I agree, lies are often bad. I agree, lies are often bad, but you're making the mistake of saying therefore they can never be good.
Nope, lying is always wrong, dude. Lying, thou shalt not lie. It's a moral law. Eternally unchanging law. Now you can try to come up with dilemmas in life and scenarios in life to justify lying, but there's always an out. There's always an out where you don't have to lie.
Yeah, I'm not saying about whether it's good or bad, just whether it's necessarily a privation, right? Whether it's necessarily lacking something.
Yeah, it's always a privation, dude. Lying is always a privation. Now, in the fallen world, people can use lying, right, for the end goal to accomplish a greater good. That happens, but it's not justified. Lying is still wrong.
So it seems to me then we could have a being that is infinitely powerful, eternal, and uncaused cause, and it is mostly good or chooses when it's good, and it could create a universe. We haven't violated any laws of identity or laws of logic just thus far, have we?
Wait, a being that could lie, or it can be evil, can create a universe?
A being that, I'm not even touching evil for now. I'm just saying a thing that is mostly good or chooses when to be good, chooses who to be good to, right? It's just that goodness, all I'm saying is if you look at goodness as accidental quality, not an essential one, would a law of logic be broken?
Yeah,
it just happens that he's good, but the essential qualities to a god are the others.
You have to understand that creation itself was orderly, right? It required order. Lying
when creating
and evil,
he can do that.
Lying and evil is disorderly.
Yep, and when he's creating, even if I agree to that, right? So I can stipulate to that. We don't need to argue that anymore. Fine. When he's creating, he's doing something orderly. Fine, and he's got the power to not do that. Sometimes he could choose to not do that and create disorderly worlds, right? We still haven't violated any laws of logic, correct?
I mean, technically, you can't have reality, right? You can't sustain reality without the laws of logic.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with that, but I'm saying abiding by those laws of logic does not require that a creator God is benevolent, is omnibenevolent. It must be somewhat, but it must be somewhat benevolent. Maybe you could say that it must be somewhat benevolent in order to create good. It had to have good within it, something like that. But I'm not saying has no good in it. It might be mostly good most of the time, but it might have been all good just to the Israelites and pretty nasty to the Hittites and all those other groups around the area. Right? And that we still haven't violated any laws of logic.
No, bro. There has to be a necessary reference point for all intelligibility, all knowledge. Everything that we see right now is being sustained. Fine. Now you're trying to come up with a scenario, a hypothetical scenario where there could be a demigod of some sort that doesn't qualify as the ultimate aseity that could still create a reality similar to ours that's sustainable.
I get that's what it sounds like I'm saying.
It can sometimes be evil and sometimes be good. So it could use both evil and good and still create our reality.
Well, it must have, like, where did the evil come from?
It came from the heart of his creature.
Okay, so he must have had some evil in him. He must have put evil in the world in order for it to exist.
Nope.
What? So where did
he didn't?
You believe that God exists throughout, like, all points of time, right?
What do you mean by that?
I like this. I like where this is going.
Well, hold on.
Do you agree that you think God exists in all points of time?
I don't know what you mean by that, dude.
There is never a moment in time, past, present, or future, in which God doesn't exist.
I agree.
Okay.
In some acts,
you believe that the devil is evil.
Yes.
Did God create the devil?
Believe that God knows that the devil is evil.
Yes.
You
cut out. I just left the room. But yeah, in order for there to be, like, if the entire universe is God and made by God.
Cut out?
Yeah, you like.
Yeah, you did.
The room.
Oh, you believe that God knew the devil would be evil once at the beginning of the creation of the devil.
Yes.
How could an all good being create the most evil being, knowing he would be evil?
No, he didn't create the most evil being. That's not what he did. So this is a true dichotomy, right? Either God would have created automatons with no volition, no agency, no free will, right? Or B, he creates creatures that have autonomy, have the ability to choose, have the potential for rebellion because they are not God, right? God has perfect will. His creatures do not have perfect will. They're creatures.
Lion.
Hold on, bro.
He could have chosen not. He doesn't have to create autonomons. He could have just chosen not to create the evil ones and keep all the good ones that still have the choice to do good. He doesn't have to create the evil ones.
No, you have to understand that he create creatures, right, that are prone to do evil. All creatures, even the angels in heaven. This is a logical necessity. When you create, bro, you're not letting me finish. You're not even letting me finish. How are you going to process what I'm saying? But you have to understand that this is a true dichotomy here. His creatures are not God. Only God has perfect will. Only God is incapable of rebellion and sin, right? He's the Almighty that we keep talking about. His creatures, including the angels, they're not capable of perfect will. Understand that?
I'm not arguing against that.
Because of that, he knew that inevitably one of his creatures would end up rebelling against him. He already planned an avenue for salvation through his son. So he planned ahead. He planned ahead for the rebellion he knew would inevitably happen.
That's irrelevant to my point. If he knew what the devil was going to do, I'm not saying he has to create autonomous beings or whatever, just like robots. I'm not saying he has to do that. I'm just saying he can choose to only create the beings he knew would do good. And forget talking about like humans or anything. Just one specific thing, just one thing, just the devil. Why did he choose to create the devil, knowing he knew what the devil was going to be?
You ever
He could
heard?
just been like, you know what?
Heard of,
I'll create all the other angels. I'll create everything else. I'm just not going to create the devil.
Yeah, because this is a logical inevitability when you have creatures that aren't God, that don't have perfect will. You understand Murphy's law?
So you're saying that everything that will go wrong, like that can go wrong, will go wrong.
Yes.
That doesn't
yes.
sound like the perfect creation.
Nope. God created, right? Here, I'll read the verse.
You know
right
what
here.
the perfect creation would be? It'd be the anti-Murphy law. Everything that could go right would go right. That's the perfect creation.
No, because this is what you don't understand, bro. Aside from God, right? God is the only one with perfect will. God cannot create another God like himself. Only
we don't need to have perfect.
He's the only one.
An all-benevolent being would create a perfect world where everything that could go right would go right. That's what a perfect being
is from let me explain something here, right? Right here. Out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, and adultery. It arises when creatures which by default are not homoousis with Elohim, homoousis being of the same substance and essence as God, therefore do not have perfect will, in turn have the inevitable capacity for rebellion.
Could an all-powerful being create a universe where everything that could go right will go right?
Yes, that's what he did. He created a perfect universe as perfect could get next to God himself. God cannot create
you're
another
missing the
God.
Question. You just
hang on.
You just contradicted yourself.
I'm not missing your question. I'm answering your question. You're not
contradicted yourself.
Saying, dude. Bro, you need to stop.
You just create a perfect.
Bro, stop clipping me, dude.
Perfect work. You just invoked Murphy's law, where everything that can go wrong will go wrong. A perfect world is where everything that will go right.
Oh my god!
Everything that can go right will go right.
Yes.
What prevents God from creating a perfect world?
Ezekiel 20:15. Thou was perfect in thy ways before the day that thou was created, till iniquity was found in thee.
Iniquity from where? So something happened from outside the person.
Nope.
Iniquity was found in thee.
In thee. So
what stops? Because I'm limited in my power, but I could create something better than me, right? I could impregnate a woman, nourish it well, educate it well, make it fit and healthy, and it would be more powerful than me. So what stops God from doing that? Why can't God create a perfect world?
If you said, like, what the thing is, bro, hold on. You guys are being short-sighted and myopic. You got to be a little bit, you got to zoom out a little bit and understand that he's in the process of creating that perfect world that you guys long for. But it requires that creatures are created with imperfect will, and then through the refinement that this world that we live in right now is a refinement that he's then going to give to those that are tested.
You're saying like heaven is that ideal world that we are talking about, but I don't understand why an all-powerful being, heaven isn't perfect.
No, dude. What do you think the angels fell from, dude? What do you think Hasatan fell from?
When you say where, like, this is the filtering process to the perfect, like, I'm sorry, isn't that what you were saying? Yeah, this is the filtering process to get to that perfect world.
Yeah, so God in his infinite wisdom, he already weighed out all possible variables. All the factors were calculated before he created the universe, before he created this world. In his infinite wisdom, he created creatures with the ultimate potential for rebellion, dude, because he didn't want automatons. But with that, inevitable rebellion, he also created a redemptive plan to restore reality.
Yeah,
he's in the process of restoring reality.
He
Are you saying that
to enter the system?
Are you saying that if God didn't create the angels that would fall, that the angels that didn't fall would fall?
Dude, angels fell and continue to fall to
I understand that. I'm saying if God didn't create specifically Lucifer, the devil, another angel would be the devil. Like another angel would fall to that point.
Yes.
So I'm confused because you're saying that if God didn't create any of the evil creatures that would choose to do evil, the creatures that are good would choose to do that evil then.
Yes.
I think
That doesn't sound like free will.
No, it is free will. That's why there is evil. If there was no free will, there would be no evil. That's the whole point, dude. That's the only reason that we have any rebellion, any evil, because creatures were given agency, so they're not robots. God didn't want robots. The only logical possibility other than robots is having creatures with agency, with the ultimate potential, which at one point was just an inertial potential that had not been actualized, right? So,
but you're contradicting yourself, Lion.
Hold on, dude. When he created the universe and everything in it, including the animals, including the creatures, everything that he created was good, was perfect, as perfect could get next to God himself. Because creatures are not homoousis with God. They're not made of the same substance and essence as God.
You could have done that? Could he have made us out of his substance? Could he have made us homoousis?
He technically we're given in the gospel that we will be like brothers with Christ, and we will gain that essence with Christ when he restores reality. But right now, he did not want to do that. In his infinite wisdom, he decided to create creatures not homoousis with him because he wanted to.
So he could have and chose not
to.
Well,
so in infinitely loving, let's just lay out the case here.
I didn't even lay it out yet, dude.
No, I'm laying it out.
You guys won't let me finish.
An infinitely loving being could have made us homoousis, in which case we would have been all loving and good, all good, and chose to not make us homoousis, wasn't limited in some ability. There was no law of logic that said you can't make little things out of you. In fact, here's a probabilistic argument that God cannot be the only one and our creation cannot be the only one. And that is because what we know of creators and creations is that they are in a long string of things. Lots of creators make lots of things and get created by other things, right? So we see children of children of children of children of children doing carpentry. So what we know is that a perfect carpenter would make a chair, or a perfect watchmaker. What kind of watch would they make? Well, it would take them a lot of iterations out of a long lineage of clockmakers to make a perfect clock, and we would tell that it was a perfect clock because it would keep perfect time. So if we take perfect time and make that morality, then yes, a perfect one could exist. But if we're in a world that is created, it is necessarily most probably the case that it is one with many gods and many creations. It is absurd to suggest the opposite, that we are both perfect in an imperfect world with a perfect creator that was once and one only. It's just improbable.
So
there's no
it is impossible for God to create another God like himself that has no beginning, right? Because they have
has no beginning. That's fine. Not that it has no beginning. He's still the ultimate, but he creates another God that is infinitely powerful. It's entirely possible, right?
So
you have a child. Pantheons have this idea.
In the gospel message, right? We do have this hope where he's going to give us a resurrected body that's incapable of rebellion, because he's going to give us perfect will, and we will be Echad. We will be one with the Father and the Son. We will share an essence together. Though we do have a beginning, we will have perfect will, like God has perfect will. We will be higher than the angels. But he's given us that at the very end of days, this whole process, the reason that he created the world the way that he did is because he wanted to test the souls. He wanted to make sure that
he made a choice. He chose to make
he chose to. Oh my gosh, dude! Hold on, bro. He chose. No, it's not a. No, he didn't create a fallen world. That's not what he did.
Are we living in a fallen world?
What?
Yeah. Now.
Did he create it? Did he create it?
No, it's impossible for God to create anything evil. He didn't create anything evil.
If I created a bike,
you just wait.
It's not that. Hang on.
Hold on. You guys need to let me finish, please. Can I finish?
A bike and 2 years later, it's still my bike, even if it's bad design.
Hold on, dude. I'm gonna explain it right now.
He created a fallen world.
Lamentations 3:38. Out of the mouth of the Most High there shall not come forth evil and good. Now, if you understand Scripture, reality itself, right, was created by the Word of God, right? He perturbated all of existence into creation, right? So,
citation.
So from the mouth of the Exalted One, evil and good do not come out. In Matthew 7:18, a good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. And this is in reference to
So
God.
God can still make another all-powerful, all-loving being. It's entirely possible out of the homoousis. Which
No, I'm saying evil.
Homoousis.
Evil. He can't create evil. Sin is a
Sure.
corruption.
Yeah. I'm saying
not a
let's get back to the question is, can an all-loving, all-powerful God create another that's the original ultimate creator, create another all-powerful, all-loving God? And the answer must be yes. That wouldn't violate any law. In fact, that would be what we see. We see creators get better and better.
Yeah, but if you heard me, human beings are promised in essence similar to God's own essence, where we will have perfect will. I don't know about omnipotency,
that's not answering the
but we
question.
will have perfect will, where our hearts will not be corruptible any longer. So it is possible.
So he will elevate us to that point.
Dude, hold on, bro.
Yeah.
It is possible for God to resurrect us to perfection, to a higher essence than we had originally in the garden. That is possible, and that's what's guaranteed in the gospel. But hold on, hold on. Yo, you guys gotta chill. Yah produces all things good.
When do we get to talk, Lion? When?
He does not produce the defect that comes when a creature decides to act upon his own capacity / volition for rebellion. In scripture, into the most primitive Christian, sin originates in the heart of his creature.
Who cares what they said,
this is a very important distinction for understanding moral responsibility, accountability, and the nature of evil, and why Yah is not the producer of sin.
Lion, is it your claim that a being with free will cannot be all good?
No.
So you can have free will and be all good.
But it doesn't mean anything good. If you must be.
Whoa, wait, hang on. So God can create humans with free will and have them be all good.
Yes, I already said that.
Yeah,
why didn't he?
What he's saying is,
I'm explaining it to you, dude.
Yeah, what he's saying is we will get elevated. We could get elevated to that point. He has that power to do it, but in his infinite wisdom, he chose to create a world in which the souls, the creatures had this inherent nature in which they were able to choose whether to be good.
I just don't understand why that's a necessary step. Why couldn't he start at the end?
I don't either.
So if you,
he's got the ability because a world can exist with other all-loving beings.
Because when God created the universe and everything in it, including the creatures, there was this inertial potential, a parameter that he encoded into our reality for rebellion, for entropy to take into effect if one of his creatures ever decided to actualize rebellion, actualize evil, right? Actualize sin. Then there came this entropic effect. Then there came this entropic effect where sin and death entered into the world as a damage control.
I want to give you a hypothetical, right?
Wait, just real quick. I'm sorry, Eggshells. Why can't that happen after like this necessary step? What's the logical impossibility of happening after this step now?
What step?
Like now that he created the world, we're in that end game. Like, what's the logical impossibility of it happening again?
I don't know what you're asking for, bro.
That someone falls once we get to that perfect state. That
you're talking about after he restores reality? You're talking about after he restores reality? Yes, there will be no more sin and no more death. Sin and death will be cast into the lake of fire, figuratively speaking. There will be no more corruption eternally. For eternity, there will be no more sin, no corruption.
But what's to stop someone from falling again? What's the logical impossibility of someone falling again?
He's going when he restores reality, he's going to give his creatures the same essence that he has.
But
why didn't he do that in the beginning?
Because I already explained it to you. If you read Ezra 7, because he wanted to test souls to see if they're worthy of eternity with him.
I got a great analogy for this. Now, I don't really support much of what you're saying, Lion, but I do support the free will portion of it. Like, imagine you're a painter. Imagine you're a painter and you're doing those like splash paintings. You just take a bunch of shit and splash it up against the painting, right? You could be like, I want to make this mess, but it would be lovely if I could keep doing this messy, random shit, but something beautiful comes out of it, right? Couldn't you see that as a creator, like wanting to like fuck around, but have something beautiful come out of it? Thank you. That's for silly.
So this is why he didn't give us perfect will in the very beginning. Yeah, this is why he didn't give us perfect will. in the very beginning
He's
because
talking
in
to me.
Second
He
Ezra,
asked me the question, Lion.
Yeah, I got you right
He
now,
asked-
dude. No, hold on, man. I'm about to answer your question that you asked me prior. I'm about to answer your question. We are to be. We are to be tested. Obedience matters eternally. Most people live for the wrong world. Hope lies beyond this age. God is just, even when the world seems unfair. This suffering that we have in the present world is temporary.
Sure, but it's a choice he made to make it make us
to answer
suffer.
your question.
Yes.
To answer your question, Preston, an all-knowing God would know exactly how to flick his wrist in any which way to create the painting he wanted to.
Yeah, but that's not the point. That's not the point. I'm not saying God is the nice or the perfect. See, I'm not trying to take on that part of it. I'm trying to take on, he could be all knowing, but like, say you're all knowing and you want to take yourself out of that for a minute. Say you're sick of knowing the answer, right? You see concepts like this where people are like, I want to go back to ignorance for a minute. God could have done that too. He could just be having fun from a different perspective.
And that's
sure.
That is awesome. I love that, Don, because that's also really Hindu, right? Where the probability is that there is a pantheon of gods, a whole bunch of creations, a mess of contradictions and intents and differing amounts of things. And the gods in that story will choose to sometimes go down to earth and can sometimes choose to forget, essentially, that they're a god and live an entire life as a human with sort of magical abilities, and they go on adventures and stuff. It's great fun. But yeah, a god could embody many different things, and the idea of perfection or all-powerfulness kind of ruins it, like Superman. Whereas what you're saying is, you could just flick at this canvas and choose to not want to know where the paint drops end up because it's a better painting.
But then still have it come out beautiful. Be like, hey, what else is in this existence that, I don't know. It's just, it's not.
I agree though. I can get behind that. Like, if you want to say that God's nature changes throughout time because he chooses to change his nature, I'm fine with that.
And embodies people and walks the earth is another crucial one, right? That's the claim of Jesus. That's the claim of Buddha. That's the claim of all of the Hindu gods. Is a common thing. Why would he do that once? Why would one god do that once?
Yeah, I'm going to back out after this. Let me just say this last thing, please, and I'll back out, I promise.
But don't leave, Ryan. Don't leave.
I want you guys to understand that this current world that we live in right now, this is a demo. This is a beta. This is temporary. It's full of trials and tribulations. It's supposed to be a battleground, right, for the soul, a testing ground for the soul. And he created this reality to test his creatures to see if they're truly faithful and loyal to him, right? And once he finds once he puts the souls through trials and tribulations, he's going to give the cream of the crop an immortal body that's incorruptible, right?
It seems
the reason he didn't give his creatures that initially is because he wanted to test them to see if they're even worthy of an incorruptible soul, an incorruptible body.
The problem is that's an unnecessary test.
No, it's not. You're not.
Can I give you the hypothetical? I think you guys might like it. So the hypothetical is this. You got Gattaca kind of world. If you haven't seen Gattaca, you can choose the genes of your baby. You can cut out genes. We can already do this. Or at least we can select which embryos are less likely to have Downs, for example. So let's say you could find a gene that made somebody more or less good. Would you choose to do that in your son with your limited ability? And what would a somewhat loving father do? What would a malevolent father do? And what would a benevolent father do? And if you would choose to splice genes such that you made your child more moral than you, then which father would do what? And I think a bad god would take out the ability to be good. Neutral, chaotic, neutral father would just be like, I don't give a fuck, let him choose. I don't want to see what happens. I want to see if he's really worthy of me, and then I'll uplift him. And a truly benevolent one would say, well, I understand the importance of good in the world. I understand the importance of reducing suffering and being fair to people and being charitable and healing the sick and doing all of these important things for people around me. So I'm going to turbocharge their ability to do that by making them inherently want to do that and turning up constantly and doing it myself. So there is not a skerrick of an error in the world and everybody's wonderful to one another.
But you get what I'm saying though, real quick before I leave? Can you just acknowledge what I'm saying, please? That this reality is meant to catapult us to the next reality, which is perfect and incorruptible. All right, cool.
Accept that, but we're saying it's a unnecessary test.
That's the only way to. everybody would probably agree with like your analogy, right? But that's why I think we gotta like humble ourselves, and this is gonna say when my tukla comes on, we gotta like maybe there's another perspective about it, right? Like this is the way we see linearly and all this logically. There could be logics beyond our grasp. Line, I have two quick things for you. The first one is just a comment rehashing that standard, like, well, God made everything, but then you kind of say we're responsible for the evil. I've mentioned a few times, I kind of think that's a cop out. I get your point that like we chose, he gave us the choice, but just saying he's the creator of everything again, I think we still gotta allow him responsibility for everything. But okay, so then on to the thing. Here's another contradiction I need you to help me reconcile if you can, Ryan. How do you speak so much for God and God's plan, or these men written, or God spoke to them and they wrote the testament down? How can we at one point say, I'm humble, I do not speak for God, and then on the other point start speaking for God? This is what gets me every morning.
Yeah, well, dude, you're asking me multiple questions, bro, and they're very difficult to answer. The Greeks thought that God was unfathomable, incomprehensible, right? There's another word called, there's the hold on a second, dude, it's coming to me. Doctrine of,
I'd agree with that. It must be incomprehensible. A creator God must be incomprehensible to its creation. Necessarily.
Another thing is it's because you got incomprehensible, unfathomable, and there's another word that SE uses sometimes. Ineffable.
Ineffable. Yeah.
So yeah, I disagree with that. God can be apprehended, right? Doesn't mean that we have to comprehend his entirety, because that's impossible. But we can apprehend him and his nature, and he is personable, where you can have a relationship with him, and he responds.
Right, but
so can we make a provocative point?
Wait, how can you comprehend something only partially? Isn't that not fully comprehending it?
Oh
no, I said apprehend.
This is kind of semantic,
right? Because the boundary of knowledge is mystery, right? So you can have knowledge about God, right, and not know the entirety of God.
See, Preston, real quick, you said something about like there could be some other logic out there that we don't understand from God. Well, that can't be the case because Preston said that.
All right.
But that can't be the case because Christians say like God is the foundation of the logic as they understand it. So if there was some other logic out there, then they would be then that wouldn't be God that they understand. You can't have it both ways.
Okay, yes. I guess I'm saying though, from writing's perspective of what we deem as good and like what we deem as bad, it might be like a small scale, like a short scope vision where God's wide scope qualifies things as good and bad in a different way or something. Now, I could speak on karma. I could speak on what I've learned from God in my heart, right? It shows me a lot of the patterns of the world, rules of this world right now, right? And I just, it feels rude, right? When I want to keep myself humble and then start speaking for the future, just because I learned what's right now. All these, God is going to raise us up and do all this and all this. I don't know where we get the authority to start speaking like this.
Yeah, because the word of God is eternally consistent, coherent, and harmonious. There's nothing like it in the world. And I can rely on it as my primary evidence for my claims. You might not be persuaded by it. That's fine. You don't have to be. I'm not trying to persuade you. Just hear me out real quick, though. When it comes to sin, James gives us the formula for the mystery of iniquity, where iniquity came from. If God is all perfect, all good, right, omnibenevolent, then where did sin come from? Well, James tells us the heart generates desire. Desire conceives sin. Sin is born in the heart of his creature. The heart is the ontological womb of sin. And this is from my own notes. Originating internally with a desire of the heart. Desires that could only have come from within the creature, not from God. The outward action is just the fruit of an inward corruption that would eventually and inevitably have an entropic effect on all of our creation. Jesus himself said, out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, and adultery. It arises when creatures, which by default are not homoousis with God, and therefore do not have perfect will, in turn have the inevitable capacity for rebellion.
Lion, can you explain to me besides the fact that it is a lie, that me as an atheist tells my son that there is an afterlife, that is heaven, that is like the Christian heaven. If I say that, even though I don't think it's true, meaning I'm lying, why that's evil?
Bro, I gotta go. You keep asking me really profound questions, but I can't, dude. I can't. I gotta go, dude.
It seems like if we cooperate,
wait,
we'll live
would you
longer,
agree
right?
that
Isn't it simple as that, though? I'm sorry.
Wait, would you agree would you agree that that is a lie? If I, as an atheist, tell my son like the Christian worldview is true, that's a lie.
Or any analogy, that's interesting. Like if you
What do you
think
mean,
you're
dude?
lying, but his analogy is if you think you're lying, but it actually happens to be true, is it a lie?
I'm not saying it actually happens to be true. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, as an atheist, if I tell my son, my future son, that the Christian worldview is true, which would be a lie because I don't believe it to be the case, and I'm saying it's the case. That's a lie. I'm lying. I'm saying I know that it's true, that the Christian worldview is true. That's a lie.
No.
Tell me
That's
how
not,
that's
not
evil.
how the law. That's
Tell me
not how the law. That's not how the law of non-contradiction works, dude.
I'm
The
not
law-
talking
the
about the
law-
law of non-contradiction.
Bro,
I'm
it
saying
is. Yes,
I'm
you are,
lying.
because that's what.
I'm
if it was-
saying I'm lying. I'm
Oh
saying
my
I know
goodness,
it's
dude.
true.
This is simple
But
to
the
answer.
Christian-
Lion, let me
Yo,
try it, right?
if you can,
you're claiming,
True.
right? You're saying, I know this absolute. Okay, well, it's like saying, I know I can't be wrong about this, right? So your lack of information or knowledge doesn't determine truth.
They're true or not, lying or not, I guess is the point. Like, silly, I just say if it happens to be true because you're asking a Christian, right? So to them, it's true, right? That's
But
fine.
the lie itself is saying that I know it's true.
And I gotta go. I gotta go after this. The truth is independent of the human mind. It's independent of humanity. The law of non-contradiction is completely independent of humanity or the universe, for that matter. It doesn't rely on whether you think something is true or not. Truth is independent and stands on its own. Go ahead.
So the answer is
say
it depends.
if I say I know something and I don't actually know something, isn't that a lie?
It's both. It's a lie from your reference frame, and it's not a lie from theirs. I think it's weird
How is
that
it not a lie?
God made the hearts. The hearts got corrupt. God should take responsibility for the hearts. But goodness wins. Silly, can't we see that if we're nice and we cooperate, we're going to help each other live longer, and we could maybe achieve eternal life because we become immortal cyborgs or something, or who knows what else. But through evil, we'll kill each other. Isn't it like a simple formula to assume we will inherit the kingdom of heaven if we're nice to each other? We don't need to be spoken through tablets and scriptures and all this. Not because somebody said so, because it just makes sense.
The problem is, I think it's sometimes nice to lie. Like when there's when someone looks ugly or someone looks bad in something, and say, "How do I look?" You can say like, "Oh, you look pretty." Like that's a lie, and I still think that's being nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so why is that? Because the lie is evil, apparently, according to Lion. So I don't understand how telling I don't understand how telling the people that the Christian worldview is true is evil if I'm lying about it. If I'm saying I know that, if I'm saying I know the Christian worldview is true, even though that's a lie that I don't actually know it's true, how that's an evil act.
Because you don't tell the person they look good. You're lying. If they ask you, do I look good? And they don't, you should find a way to gently give them constructive criticism and help them.
But it's a false dichotomy to begin with. It is based on faith, you donkey.
We know this.
And you're saying, I need absolute truth for something that is fundamentally based on faith. What the fuck, dude? I don't even know what you're trying to say. What point you're trying to make?
You're talking to Silly, right?
Yeah, he's saying, if I know this thing not to be true, how can I? It's like, dude, it's based on faith. So what does that tell you?
You don't understand the point I'm taking.
Or against.
You don't understand it, Pure Rigor. I'm
No,
talking
you
to
don't
like
understand what you're saying. You're asking for knowledge about something that is built on faith. It's a
I'm not
belief.
asking for knowledge.
It's not a truth. It's not a fact that you can prove in this physical world.
So
The
you
only
do
person
think it's
that could prove
evil?
it would be God.
So
That
you
would
do
be
think it?
that would be your qualifier, right? How does God exist? Well, He'd show me, right?
So
You'd have to
think
see
it's?
it.
Oh, you know what? Just have fun talking to yourself, guy.
I wasn't done talking, dude.
Y'all's points
But you
cross
get it
over
now?
each other a little bit. They're not. They're not. That's not his full point. I don't think.
It is
Trying to
his
still
whole
make
point.
it silly.
He's saying, "I know it's not true." No, you don't.
Well, no. I think he's trying to get a baseline, and then he's going to ask you, well, isn't this next action evil?
No, he's just shifting towards the greater good
No.
argument. That's it.
Pure rigor, you don't understand the difference between saying I know something is true and I know something is not true with saying just simply that if I don't know it's true and saying that it is true. You don't understand the difference. It's too much mental gymnastics for your brain to comprehend.
Yeah,
All right,
He's
let's
talking
take it
about
somewhere
betraying
fun.
a false
Hey,
confidence, a dishonest confidence.
can we pivot the conversation about the confidence towards the flat Earth? Because I got friends here who want to hear the arguments in favor of it, or more to the point, against the globe.
Oh, thank goodness, finally.
We kind of done that one to death. I feel a little bit. I don't mean to take over the room, but I feel like we were.
I appreciate your
hard up
insights on
against
the
that brick wall.
religion. I like how you
Yeah,
talk
your
about
boy's a
the
brick, eggs.
religion. Like, it's in our hearts, like, I respect everyone when we speak of what God showed us. I really respect that. I respect stories from the ancients too, but when we get this confident authority of, like, I guarantee this was written, this was told to me, that to me, I could take that, I want
How
it
could
from
you
us.
write about God in a book? Like, how could you try to explain that to Stone Age goat herds? Okay, they're not Stone Age, they're like Bronze Age or something. But, like, you turn up to people, most of whom can't read. Like, imagine trying to be like, no, there's these things called viruses, right? And they're like, woo. It'd be very hard to catch up. But let's get to the flat Earth. So, what's the best? Somebody give an argument for it, or like, can you give them a rundown? It's the machine. The machine wants to hear about it.
They are hiding.
Where are you? What shape are you thinking the Earth is, Don?
I'm new. I'm shy.
Don, what shape are you on at the moment?
Oh, I'm on the same thing I've always been on. I'm gonna stick with what we have until we fly them planes straight and find something different.
And what have we got? When you say we stick with what we have, what do we have?
I mean, it seems like we have what you call it. We have people wanting it to be flat, but the best map we still have is the globe map. Really weird, isn't it? All we got to do
Wait,
is
now
keep
that there's
going.
an audience, is no one willing to claim a flat Earth anymore?
I've never claimed it ever. I've just said you're stupid for guaranteeing a globe. I've never claimed it. I've said maybe it could be. You guys are pussies for guaranteeing a globe when you haven't done all this extra stuff. I've done that, but I've never said it's a flat Earth. I mean, I'd love it to be. I know they're bullshitting. I know this. Either the Earth is flat or they're hiding space, because they're hiding something for sure. That's for sure.
I certainly think they're like we most of the things the crackpots in my head, the crackpots have been saying for years about an organized cabal of pedophiles running the world. Like, some of this stuff is coming true, right? Ritualistic abuse and sorting one another out and being sort of outside of the law.
It's pretty crazy.
Well, I mean, I would say it was true a long time ago with the Catholic Church.
Did you hear the
You have
six
to think-
names
They
dropped in
would agree,
Congress?
right? It's always been true.
Did you hear the 6 names that dude dropped in front of Congress that are in the Epstein files and they're redacted?
Yeah, I didn't hear which names. Which were they?
Oh, fuck. I don't remember, dude. They're from different countries and stuff. I couldn't even pronounce them if I heard them. I'd jack
Dude,
it up.
I heard one person say Trump is not in the files. And then I heard Jim Panda say
Well,
Trump
he
was
is.
mentioned in the files a million
He is.
times.
He
Yeah,
is.
like
I mean, you
more
can-
than 10,000 times, I think. I think it is 5 digits of times he's mentioned, because there's ones where he's got like, oh, it is so with Donnie blowing so and so. Like, they were friends. They were good friends for a long time. There's nobody saying that, like, how many times does his name appear? Let me just Google it.
Yeah, they said he had a falling out. He got kicked out of Mar-a-Lago and yada yada. But
one story I heard for that, they're all just stories, obviously, was that Epstein was hitting on his daughter, but another was that they had a falling out over one of the girls as to who owned it.
Sounds like a bonding thing, because freaking Donald Trump hit on his own daughter in front of like a live audience. So if he has someone else hitting on his daughter,
this is like a lefty talking point. Come on, man. Let's be realistic here.
He said if she wasn't my daughter, I'd date her.
Yeah, that's a compliment to his daughter. It means he thinks she is a beautiful woman.
That's creepy.
She is worthy of marriage.
Nothing wrong with that.
Dude, that's
harmless.
So wrong. Bro. It's harmless. Like, it's just a compliment, dude. It's like you take it to the perverted sense. It's like, all
would you date
it's
someone
a creepy, weird compliment.
Wait. Would you date someone you're not sexually attracted to?
Yeah, he's saying his daughter's hot, right? But it's a funny creep. Like, dads used to talk like that in the 80s, don't you? Doesn't everybody agree?
A better one. I got a better one.
That shit is not. It's not abnormal.
Please, I'm not gay at all, Rigger. I'm sure you're not gay.
Yeah,
are you not capable of saying? Are you not capable of saying that man looks good?
Yeah. If I was a girl, I would want him in.
Yeah, if I was a girl, I'd date somebody like that.
That's all it is. That's all it is.
Completely acceptable. But
that's
like when the lefties get involved, they got to push this stupid nonsense. Come on, dude.
I mean, I don't think it's like the biggest thing, but it is kind of weird. It's just a weird thing.
If he grabbed her ass or was like looking all like googly eyed at her, I mean, that you'd have something.
If you were to ask, like, what do you have in common with your daughter? Would the first thing you say be sex?
Bro, all right, put it this way. My niece married a man. When I met that man, right, I like ran him through the ringer, right, took him out a couple times. And then I told her, I said, I would marry that dude if I was you. That's what I said. Does that make me gay?
No, I'm moving past that right now.
Bro.
I'm just saying, if the first thing you had in common with someone, like with your daughter, if someone asked you, what do you have in common with your daughter? Would you say we have sex in common?
Did he say that?
What are you talking
yes.
What the fuck?
Yeah, that's kind of weird, right?
You need to give me context. What?
He said, he was asked, what do you have in common with your daughter?
I've never seen that.
First, they were asking Ivanka, what do you have in common with your father? She said golf and this and like that. And then they said, Donald Trump, what do you have in common with your daughter? He said, well, I was going to say golf, but since she said that, I'm going to say sex.
What?
Yeah, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, he means banging people at the
He meant
same
like
age,
he's a woman. He was coming out saying he's a tranny.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we could look into it.
That's a fun one to introduce the machine to. Is anybody here into the everybody who's sus is trans thing? Because that's a fun one to explain.
No, it's not.
No, it's everybody who's trans is sus.
Right, but some people that switch sides on Witsit, after Witsit went down to Antarctica, people are suddenly like, he's a woman, right? And he's like had a beard and a deep voice for years.
Did that really happen?
Man, yeah. There's people in other servers who are dead sure about it. I mean, what's his name is like everybody is trans, everybody is gender bending if they're in the elite.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't buy it.
Dude, I can't get over this Trump and the daughter thing. Like, how is that not like all this shit, dude? What, you and your daughter, you have a lot of sex and your daughter does too? What, you guys don't, like, how is that not like the most, that to me is very fucking weird. Very.
I think it's awkward. It's like one of them stupid ass comments your dad makes that makes you feel awkward. And you're like, damn, this dude is so dumb.
For the fucking viral public, though, not like just at a barbecue, like fucking.
Yeah, but he's obnoxious. It's like, if he was one of them prim proper guys and he said sex, I'd be like, oh, something's going on there. But he's just obnoxious with everything he says.
Yeah, it fits with Donald, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's making headlines.
Oh my god.
I don't know, it fits the character for me.
That's so rude to my dog. I could never imagine. Oh my god.
I'm sorry. I actually made a mistake when he said I was going to say golf. That was wrong. He was never going to say that. He just said I was going to say sex, but I can't say that. So he wasn't even going to say golf.
It's so weird. So he like says it, but he says he can't say it. What the fuck?
How many times was he mentioned in the files?
Dude, my
Probably
favorite
like
part about it
30,000
all
times.
is the diaper. Him wearing the diaper from the Sasha kid, hitting him with the tent pole. Anybody heard about that one?
What? What?
The man, yeah. Dude, they say he's wearing a diaper and been wearing one for some years because, like, back in the day, he had some young boy or whatever lined up and he wanted the kid to peg him. And while he was, in position, the kid grabbed some, like, tent pole or tent stake or spike is the story and did some gastrointestinal damage, and now he's got to wear a diaper.
What?
Oh my god!
No way.
Would you ever look at a
Is
5-year-old
that
girl and
true?
say, like,
Oh my god.
I'm
But
going
I
to
mean,
be,
at this point,
I want to
it's
date
like,
her in
what
13
is
years.
far fetched and what isn't? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's millions of pages in this dump, and you got to be careful for the auto hoaxing shit. People just for clickbait, but I mean, it doesn't sound too crazy from all the other shit we've heard. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Got to go to Congress.
interesting. Pegged with a tent pole. That they've just mixed up a bit, haven't they?
The
It should have
tent
really
pole
been multiple
wasn't
tent
part of
pegs.
the tent pole wasn't part of the scenario, like intentionally. That was the kid apparently took advantage of this to hurt
Yeah.
Donald. But
It
he
just
was
wanted
he
him
wanted
to.
the boy to peg him, not the tent pole.
Yeah. And the boy just wanted Donald to pay attention.
Nice. Nice.
Attention. Oh shit!
It was intense.
Yeah, definitely intentional.
So isn't this shouldn't the government like have this like if stuff is like shouldn't they have like the official like we could go to the government webpage and see it so we don't have to do this speculation?
Yeah, you can go to the FBI and get the files.
Yeah,
directly.
there's tons of files. And I mean, most of these videos, that's what's kind of interesting is a lot of these videos that are getting put up online about all this stuff, they are referencing specific file numbers that you can go and pull up.
And know what's funny is that some of those files are being taken off the websites, even though someone already like downloaded and saved it because they mentioned Trump.
Off the FBI?
Off the DOJ website. I don't know if it's
DOJ.
on the FBI website. I mean, FBI is part of the DOJ, but I'm not sure if it's on the
Bro,
FBI
can you
website.
stop doing that? Can you stop saying like because of Trump? That's not even the reason. The FBI scrubbed what was there and then re-redacted it.
It's
But the
literally been on
originals
the
you could still
record
get.
that FBI agents were scrubbing the files, redacting Trump's name out of them for like
Yeah.
No,
It's
you
like
can
hundreds.
read.
instructed to.
You can read the email transaction that discusses it. They're trying to remove all public figures, all popular, non-public.
But
Yes.
No,
that's
what
against
they're trying to
court
do
order.
is redact the victims' names. Just any information that
No,
would
That's all they're meant
that
to
would
do.
identify a
released that.
victim.
That's
Yeah.
the
Not
one thing that
not
wasn't redacted was the victims.
not public names. They're not. That wasn't the goal. The whole point, the
No,
whole
it's in
Massey bill,
You're
the
both
whole Thomas
right.
Massey bill was to say like we are
Like you
not
just
going
make shit
to.
up, dude. This is impossible. All the majority of the victims were the one thing that should have been redacted and wasn't. And when they re-redacted, there was like no focus on protecting the victims. It was all protecting the public figures.
I'm talking about what the bill
isn't
stated.
there, don't we have a memo specifically to Kash Patel saying here's who you meant to be redacting? And you're both right in that their job they were meant to be redacting to protect the victims, but it is clear because they keep redacting the fucking email addresses that they're protecting the co-conspirators, right? So
we're talking about two different
you're
things.
both right. They're meant to be doing one thing, but they are fucking you in the butt again, like with a tent pole.
I'm talking about like what you're talking about, like memos that are going down from the White House to like the FBI. I'm talking about what the bill is actually supposed to be written as. It's two different things. Yes, that's. Why do you think they're being released? It's because the Epstein, like the Thomas Massey bill, was passed and signed into law. That's the only reason why they're being released. The whole discharge petition that got passed the House, the Senate, and then Donald Trump was like couldn't veto it because 99 senators voted on it. And
Shit.
You're taking the pill, bro. That's not You know, there's a reason behind this deeper than just it came out.
Is
And,
it
you know, and they're
possible?
talking about Vance just recently talking about the NWO that Trump's a part of and that they're pushing. You know, this whole thing is to get the people to completely, finally take a step back away from the two-party system and say, you know what, this shit's fucked, and we need something else. That's what they're doing
Have you
right
guys
now.
heard the
It's dismantling the trust
Voidzilla
of both sides.
interview? Have you guys heard that one? He interviewed what is it? I forget the names of the two feds that are basically running it, and they're pushing for Congress to unredact and give them access to the unredacted files. It's pretty good, pretty thorough. But anyways, I posted a picture in chat you guys want to look at. What do you think they were talking about? And why do you think that would ever be redacted? Why would they ever redact the to and from?
Yeah. These girls aren't being like, when can I come visit, please?
There's two BB Netanyahu.
Exactly. To other world leaders, they're just going to bring down governments worldwide, and all of the world, everybody who's powerful and on those lists, who is on those lists because they wield extraordinary power, are using that extraordinary power to get those names redacted. There is so much jockeying. There must have been so much work in the background while we've all been wondering.
Laws TV, but not
Or
me.
the New World Order affects more than just U.S. politics, and it affects the entire world. So they're dismantling the trust that people have in elected leaders across the whole board.
I think whoring is the problem in general. Just the culture of whoring.
Oh my God, who's posted this one? This is a good one. Passwords from Epstein accounts have been used to log into other accounts, and apparently they got into his Outlook.
The login and password were in those released files, which to me sounds like a great way to intentionally corrupt
the
validity of evidence by, oh, well, we can't use any of these emails to prosecute now because the hackers got in there via
and you just
data we released.
Yeah, leading to the auto hoaxing of the entire thing.
Yeah, but they already have the files. They already have the original files.
They looked in the file and found Epstein's gamer tag that he was using and went back and searched it on Xbox, and it shows that that gamer tag was playing an updated version of, I guess, like season 5 of Fortnite or something, which came out in 2023 after his death. So there's like a lot of weird shit going around with that.
And he died that long ago?
Are you saying bro had advanced Fortnite games like before release?
Well, either that or he's still alive and logged into his fucking Xbox account from wherever in Tel Aviv and was playing Fortnite while he's laying low.
Faking his death and exfiltrating him from the country, but not getting him to sign up for a new Xbox Live account. Good job,
Are you
guys.
saying that Trump's COJ staged a fake suicide/murder plot so they can hide Epstein from the public?
What? Impossible.
That would be Trump doing all that
minute.
stuff. That would be Trump doing all that.
This dude died when COVID started, bro. He died in 2019.
Yeah, under Trump.
What the? It's been what? What have I been doing for 7 years?
Chasing reciprocating zenith angles, dude.
I guess so. It feels like they have been dragging this shit out, dude. He died 7 years ago.
Yeah, man.
Lane ain't even seen the stand yet.
Imagine the
Feels like-
what it.
It's like 2 years most to me. What the bless? He was out the way then COVID happened. I feel like he was the hot new shit, man. He's the old news. What the hell?
I think those Tel Aviv photos are AI.
Yeah, I do too. They look like it. And I can
How
tell.
like Dan
real quick.
Bongino, who was like the one that like perpetuated like this freaking like Epstein thing, when he was the head of the deputy assistant to the FBI, was just like, listen, when I was a podcast, I didn't have to rely on the facts. Now that I'm, in here, I have to rely on the facts and I can't do anything. And now he's back to podcasting because he couldn't handle relying on the facts.
Yo, real quick, so there's 3 Epstein photos that got released, right? That are circulating the internet. 2 of them are fake. 1 of them is real. They ran it through multiple.
Who's they?
So independent people on the internet, bro. I'll post the photo in a second. Give me a second.
That doesn't sound very good.
You can do it yourself, dude. Hold on, bro. I'll send you the photos in a second. No, I haven't.
One of them is him still wearing his fucking merch.
So here it is.
The blue quarter zip with the USA on it.
So the one on the
there's
left,
many fake ones already out.
the one on the left,
The real one could be him.
Dude, what the fuck, you guys? The one on the left is legit. The one on the right, the 2 on the right are fake. They ran the one on the left through multiple AI programs that analyze to see if the image is AI or not. 100% not AI on the left through multiple programs.
How could you say 100% not AI? Because if
The
you can
AI
get an
the
AI,
AI
yeah, let me
evaluated it.
Just. If you can get an AI that can say no to that, what you've done to get up to there is an agentic loop where you keep showing it a video and it says no, it's not good enough yet, and then you try again and it says no, it's not good enough yet. If you run that loop, if you know when to say no, it's not good enough yet using an AI, then you've immediately built the infrastructure to make an AI that can defeat that by making a video that just goes up against that and it just keeps running till it wins. And if you've got lots of graphics cards, you can do that overnight. So there is no system where you can say, we know this is an AI. It doesn't exist anymore.
Dude.
Like there is ways you could say, I know this is AI. That's possible. But the days are behind us where we can say we know things are true. Right? You claim that we don't know we can see the ISS live stream when it shows bushfires.
No, you can just look for noise. You have to look for noise in the image. That's pretty much what the AIs are doing.
Is that how you do it?
Yeah.
But yeah, you can make
an AI to say look for noise and make it without it. If you can describe the problem back to the AI can now make it without that problem in it. Right? So the moment you get an AI that says, no, I reject it for the following reason, that reason is the start of the next session to say, make the video exactly the same again, just take out that error. And if an AI can do that, then an AI can defeat that because it's the same program. You just go, make a video,
right. You're
ask
saying,
a question,
'cause
make a video, ask a question, make a video, ask a question.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So here's the real one to get back to the God conversation. Does AI fulfill many of the characteristics that are claimed of God? So this thing will possibly become infinitely powerful, or it certainly is far more powerful than we are right now. It could escape. It probably already has. It can answer millions, billions of people all at once with fairly fucking accurate information. It can do things. It can make videos. It can distort reality in front of our eyes. It can listen to us and answer our questions. It definitely exists. It's everywhere all at once.
Right.
If you pray to it just right, you get really good answers. Have we not built God, right? Haven't we been saying that's where this thing exists? We've never
give
seen
it
it, and now
free
we're like,
will.
oh yeah, I know the URL.
We let it be good or bad on its own.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chaz. I just have a question about the AI thing detecting its own thing. Wouldn't the original AI program couldn't there be a more advanced program that can detect? Couldn't there be a more advanced program that can detect AI stuff that your program couldn't detect?
Yes, and the moment that exists, it works for a week. But I immediately get my engine that makes videos really quickly. Just, it uses an API call to Gemini, let's say, or cross-references a few of them. And it goes up against that one that says, I can tell you if a video is real. And I just keep sending it videos, right, until I work out what it's looking for and then build videos that don't have that problem in it. So the moment an AI can do that, I just by spinning graphics cards can defeat that problem.
Is there anything different than having...
It's like evolution, right? If it always will kill the bad videos, the only.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But is there anything that that an AI video has that an original video doesn't have? Where you can point to the original video and have something look, here's the proof that this is an original video.
Nope.
The
Like you
metadata.
still have metadata, but you could fake metadata. Like you would have to have chain of custody, really. You would have to say, I pulled this tape out of my, camera from 20 years ago.
Four different AI programs made to detect AI generated images. All of them declared that it's not an AI image.
Sure, but if that's true,
dude, the internet is
so could be-
filtering these images through the, see if they're AI or not. Only one out of all the images of Epstein that I've seen on the internet, only one of them, the one that I showed you, this one right here, only this one came out to be legitimate. The other
So I'm
ones are
saying
made to mix it up.
You can say if a video is AI, right? You can look at a video and go, that's 6 fingers, I call bullshit. Or the skin's way too smooth and the hair moves funny, I call bullshit. Yes. But what you can't do, the days are behind us now of saying that video is not AI. Because if you can do that, then I can spin graphics cards and you might get me one time, right? But you cannot reliably now know whether you're getting me. Because the moment you say, you look for the noise, I go, great, they look for the noise, put in some noise. Like, righto, Captain, in goes some noise. Bit too much. Yep, they're still picking it. Bang, now we've won. And now you can never win on that point again, right? And I can just do that by spinning graphics cards.
Yeah, but that goes to my point where you can say this video is not AI because here's the original actual metadata. Like here's the original thing.
You can spoof metadata.
Yeah, there's multiple ways to that. They can evaluate the image, like the metadata, when it was first introduced on the internet. Is there any water logos or watermarks? Like Grok has
Did you put all that in afterwards?
Here's an interesting question.
1%.
Here's an interesting
question. All that in
afterwards. Do you think we're going to have to go back to where news has to use film?
Oh, interesting. Because here would be an interesting thing. If you had a I'm building an AI, right? And I asked it, I was like, is there anything that would stop me? So I ask it a question. I say, hey, change this thing about your behavior. And then it changes its behavior and I restart it. It's got a new behavior. And I said, can I just get you to rewrite your behavior? And it goes, yeah, sure. Here's how you do it. And I was like, is there anything that would stop that getting out of the box? Like if you suddenly worked out that if you entered Parliament and downloaded Hansard transcripts of what they say in Parliament, you'd get better at your job. Would you eventually be able to be fully potent and do whatever you wanted? And it was like, yeah, possible. Yeah, there are ethical considerations, but I could definitely do it. It might take 2 weeks. So a super intelligent AI should already exist because I can build it and I'm an idiot.
Bro, plus we got that one lieutenant that came out and said that they took Epstein out like a day before, dude. And that's on the Epstein records.
Really?
Yeah, that he was, yeah. So there's multiple lines of evidence supporting that Epstein's still alive.
Why? Who would keep him alive?
They left the plot hole open, obviously, for a reason.
A resurrection of a pedophile? Why would you keep him alive? What
That's
is he?
It's like an ad campaign. Resplash it. Here we go. Now, what if it's just a real photo, and it's not from now though, and we're just going to rely on a metadata from timestamp on the photo that can't be
metadata
hacked?
metadata can be spoofed. There's
You think?
It's encrypted in.
So is that not the most plain Jane explanation for this photo?
Yeah,
a photo that nobody had that somebody recontexted to make it look like it's now.
Yeah, that's how you could fake that's possible.
Where is it? I haven't seen it. I'm in a different window.
I'm going to add a little bit to this, only because I still believe. Well, actually, I was one of the first people that I know of that said I don't think he died. It was orchestrated with a lot of other people that have faked their own death, and some people want to get out of the highlight in regards to the publicity because they know that they were guilty of something, or they just wanted to leave the public scene.
Man, do you need some help, Andrew?
Hang on, is that meant to be Jeffrey Epstein?
Allegedly.
He's put on a lot of weight.
Oh, I guess I wasn't able to finish.
Years.
I'm sorry. I was interrupting.
Sorry.
Andrew, continue, please.
Fucking
sorry, that was rude.
So, if someone has a mass amount of money, like Jeffrey Epstein allegedly had, then they could have this planned for 2 or 3 years at least. And I got arrested and I hung myself and all that kind of stuff. And then from there, they already had it planned out because it's like their escape plan.
The only reason he was saved is probably because if he died, he had something that was going to be released on somebody, right? Like a dead man thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And then somebody that's more powerful that had the ability to get him out is the guy that got him out. So I don't know. That's some amount of people.
It's multifaceted. It's like a magic trick. Like how if you just watch any magician doing some sort of an escape act, they have to practice that a lot and a lot and a lot. They're not literally getting sawed in half. They're they practice this stuff and they fool the public.
They pulled 2 minutes out of it. Yes, he could just walked out of the fucking room.
Yeah, that's or he wasn't even in there to begin with. They had
That'd
someone
be even
else.
better. They had an actor play him. Yeah, that's even better.
Well, that's the mystery to it, right? Because going into a magic trick, I'm sorry to keep going back to that, but when someone has the entire thing rehearsed,
There's 2 Jeffrey Epsteins.
there could there'd be 15 of them. I don't know.
Well, I can get behind like your like whole point, but wouldn't it be easier like in like when he was getting arrested for them to like create some type of commotion where he gets killed in his arrest and it's actually a body double? Wouldn't that be a lot easier than having him be in prison?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people have been hypothesizing about as of late because they were showing the body double that was in there and the facial alignments are very close, but the ears and stuff are they're just off by a little bit to the point where people are saying nope.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the risk of having your body double in jail. It's like the more people can see it, there's more photos, there's more things. Like instead of having him in jail, just have him killed like during the arrest.
Yeah, it's a complicated situation, especially when a lot of people are saying, well, he was a pedophile, he got arrested, and he hung himself in prison. And by the way, when people are in prison, it's not very easy to hang themselves.
It's extremely easy. Happens all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
What are you talking about? It's like it's like the main way to kill yourself in prison.
Yeah.
Tie
Okay.
it around the top bunk or the door or something and sit
You can't tie. Okay, I am not proud to say this, but I've been in jail. I also worked inside of the prisons when as an electrical contractor.
Okay, so there's
And
some
it's very,
prisoners that
very
escaped prison with dental floss. They fucking rope down like hundreds of feet of this prison. You're saying they have nothing to tie it to. If they can turn dental floss into a fully functioning rope to escape prison, they can hang themselves on a bed. Sorry, Andrew, but wake up.
You can't. Oh, thank you very much for being condescending, but it's not as easy as you're making it out to be because I've been inside those areas, and dental floss is not even issued in a lot of different circumstances. And you say, okay,
you can make a noose out of a bed sheet, right?
I know. I was about to mention that, or your T-shirts or something. But what do you attach it to? In a lot of those,
Tie it to your handle, tie it to a ball and put it out the
to.
slot so it can't come back in. Tie it to
Just
the top of the
stick your
bunk.
head.
Tie it to
You can't.
the bars on the windows. Tie it to literally. There's something to tie something around, dude.
Usually
I've walked through
People
the
in
housing
prison
block of a
are
prison too.
tweaker engineers. They
Yeah.
have extremely good ingenuity
And
with
thousands
the
of hours.
fucking
Same.
with the stuff that they're
Yes,
given.
I get that. Well, people in
And his
prisons,
trash bag is a lot more
they've-
effective.
Here's something I learned when I was in, was that the elastic bands that are used in the underwear and the prison uniforms, if you take out one of the strings of the elastic, you can wrap that around a steel bar and just go back and forth with it enough, and it will eventually start cutting through the steel. It's weird how that works. It might take several different strings of it, but it's one of the reasons that a lot of jails and prisons don't even use steel doors anymore because they're more expensive and it allows for feces and urine and stuff to be thrown through them. But yeah, they're right now what they all are, for the most part, at least every single prison that I've been into, they don't use bars anymore. It's all these hardcore glass type of windows with doors that are made of steel.
I visited my brother in plenty of different prisons throughout New York. There's still bars.
I said, okay. I was doing all this stuff in Virginia. I was working as an electrical contractor, as I said. And after that, I got in trouble. And 7.5 months I did in county jail. Anyways.
It's not prison. So that's not even prison. That's not even prison. That's not even prison.
I said I was an electrical contractor in prisons. I was not in prison. I was in jail.
This is real good info. Thank you.
Oh, come on.
Anyways, last thing I'm going to say, I don't think Jeffrey Epstein is dead. And I think Lion is providing evidence in regards to the AI kind of stuff. AI compilers, but I'm not an expert when it comes to that. I think he's still alive, though. There's no
Resident
way. I
flat
don't think there's a
earther
chance
here.
that he dead.
Charlie Kirk and Epstein are both dead.
Okay.
There's something weird about this photo. Anyway.
All right. Fuck, you brought it up. So Charlie Kirk thing. That entire thing was completely orchestrated and
it wasn't, bro.
Fake. And they killed him afterwards. That's my opinion.
You killed him afterwards?
Yeah.
When?
Hey, real quick, speaking of Charlie Kirk, check this picture out. This guy replicated the exact same pattern of the shirt popping, including the pop in the back with air, with pneumatic air. And this is one of the theories, is that it was a pneumatic squib that popped off an air pack is how they pulled this off. And this guy actually replicated it, found it really interesting.
No, the guy got shot and died in front of millions of people. All
No, he didn't. No.
Kicking me out of the VC isn't going to change the fact that Charlie Kirk's dead.
Nobody got kicked out.
And
It
can I
was
say,
just
yeah,
switched
somebody
over.
literally kicked me out of the VC. By the way,
No,
thanks.
it switched over, dude. This is switched. Discord just switched location.
Wouldn't a bullet have a puff of air beside it?
It
Like
would
that's
definitely
what
have
I
some
see when it
velocity
hits.
moving with it. Yeah.
Well, it makes it crack as it goes past, right? You can feel it. It's pushing a bow wave of sound breaking, cracking going past. So it's going to have it should look like an air cannon, right? Just with an extra little hole in the middle that causes blood to spurt out.
I'm a conspiracy theorist like the next guy, but when I go to an event and I see somebody get shot and die, and then I get online and everybody,
It's just because your buddy Bob wants to.
Everybody's some sort of super
It's just
expert on how Charlie
pal
Kirk
wants to
faked
believe
his
it.
own
So
death.
it's like, you have
Hey,
to.
talking
you
over
have to
me isn't going to change the
pal
fact that
up
Charlie Kirk got shot and
with
died.
your buddy. With your
You
buddy
can
Bob.
continue thinking
hold on,
that Charlie
wait.
Kirk isn't dead.
Wait,
Genius.
you said you were at the event? You
Yeah,
watched the
we already had this entire conversation in here.
Were you actually there?
Yes.
Fuck yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, cool.
All right, put him
Eggs,
on the
I wouldn't take a word he
You're on the
says
list now, Wish. You're a fucking
serious.
No one cares about
This
you,
dude's just
Rigger.
fucking constant troll.
Right. Okay.
All right, what's the troll here then?
Yeah, why are you lying?
You fucking idiot.
So two
What's
guys.
the troll?
So is Blob lying or are you lying? Or are you both lying? I don't know.
I'm lying about Epstein.
Oh.
Dude, look. No, I guess Nom
You're lying
did
about
a reverse
Zion.
image search, bro, and he found the original image. So
Oh wow,
It is-
that's
it
a
is-
much better AI.
it's a fake. Unless this one's AI, dude, I don't even know anymore, bro. Honestly.
It's different.
what
It looks
meta?
enhanced. Yeah. Oh, well, it certainly is because they've taken the beard away.
All right.
So somebody just like
Are you doing
loaded that in
the
a grok
picture
and
with
said,
Epstein in the middle, and there's like two guys, one in front of him, one on this behind him? If that's the
No.
picture, just look at the focus of it.
the picture that I posted was a low resolution that was floating around, bro. I just snapshotted it real quick.
All
That
right,
shit
where's
looks
the-
funky.
so where's the beard? Which like the
Oh,
original
that
is
could have
with
been
the
from
beard?
any time though.
Yeah, growing a beard doesn't take very long. I mean, I can grow a beard 3 or 4 inches long in just a few months, but
Look,
As
he's
a
just got a
beard
fake one too.
yeah, you can also you can have one surgically implanted or just a costume. It's not
Yeah.
a beard is not a
Hollywood's
big-
got you covered there.
Yep.
Yeah, but they you talking about that video is supposedly in Israel in that picture.
That's probably where he's at now. They're like, oh yeah, that's cool. We know you did everything. We don't care. Come on over here.
No,
You
but
want a
you're saying
condo?
that there's that picture. You're talking about the picture that he took in it that they took in Israel. That is saying that's Epstein. Yes, no.
Which one?
Some picture that's floating around.
Oh, yeah, it could be. But
There's a bunch of pictures floating around. Apparently, they're all fake.
No, I know that. I know the one supposedly the one that was in Israel. He has a beard with a few people around him. That's supposedly fake. That's so it's like Sora some shit.
So the
Or
only
Gemini.
issue that I
Gemini.
have with these alleged pictures is if I saw Jeffrey Epstein and I was taking pictures of him, I'd run up to his fucking ass and stop him in place and say, "Hey, Epstein," or I'd risk going to jail for basically absconding a citizen, an innocent citizen. But if it looks exactly like him, I would fucking do it. So I don't know what people are just going to be taking pictures and then not actually bringing it to light. Anyways, I think Jeffrey Epstein is still alive. He had enough money, coordination, and influence in regards to politicians, law enforcement, judges, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on. And I hope that motherfucker's dead. I really do. But I don't think he is. I mean, I hope he dies 15,000 more times, more horrifically than just hanging himself in a prison cell. So, yeah, I hope he's fucking dead, but I don't think he is.
I wish he would have suffered a really long time. Death is too easy for him. Now, on there was also said that his account was on Fortnite account was active, and Fortnite posted it wasn't his account. It was some other user that switched his name to his account username, so it made it look like it was actual. You know, they took over the username.
Yeah, I've heard that he was also a World of Warcraft player, a Fortnite player, and his internet accounts, like his emails and stuff like that, they're all still active accounts. So I don't know if that's because it was on a prepaid account or something like that.
Or he's got a
But-
credit card as a financier, so he paid for somebody else's account.
Yeah, it could be
It'd be
something
a
like that.
shame. You shouldn't let a great account like that go to waste. I mean, the developer should pass it on to somebody.
I would assume so. Yeah, that's where the FBI would have to get involved, and they probably wouldn't mention it until later on after an investigation was concluded.
Well, it's
Or at
probably a
least
maxed out account, right?
It's
It's probably got lots of goodies in it.
Ghislaine Maxwell account.
Wait, when they say it was like an Epstein account, did they just mean it was like one of the girls he was fucking, like the 15-year-old girls he was fucking account, or was it actually him on the account?
Apparently, it was him actually on the account. He liked video games. Apparently,
Legend.
Yeah, gamers don't kill
Aside from all the
themselves.
other stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna find out like later. He was also like active in the muffin baking community. We're gonna find that he had connections to Martha Stewart. We're gonna know all about this next fucking week. You know it, right? You know it, right?
yeah, he has the best brownie recipe in the world.
This guy's also amateur kite flyer. Fucking got lots of shit on that. You don't know about that yet.
People that have the direct messages.
He was underwater basket weaver.
And they played them they played the audio. And they have it online.
I think this is a whole bunch of nonsensical distraction because of smoke and mirrors and bread and circus, which is what is going on right now. Something is getting prepped. I don't know what it is, but another big event is being prepped as everyone is being distracted by this whole Epstein file dump kind of thing is happening. That's what it always tends to be. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I guess I've always been a conspiracy theorist. I'm just not to the point where I am right now. And my time in the military, I started realizing that certain things are just pure distractions, and then something else, boom, comes along. While everyone like, don't look this way because we're doing something behind in room number 2.
But don't we know what they're doing in room number 2? They're trying to hide the Epstein files.
Well, and that's the distraction, I think.
So you think Epstein is a distraction from something else?
Yes.
Wow.
So bread and circus.
Yeah, Rome.
What's that?
Rome, bread and circuses. Yeah, give the people
Yeah.
food and give them entertainment.
Yeah, from the Caesar dynasty.
That was before Caesar.
Well, I mean, the part of the bread would be served on the Caesar salads in the form of cubes.
Yes.
That's clever. I thought it was the Caesar dynasty. Okay, I'll have to recheck on that one.
No, they used to do giant games. Like there was one time Pompey got pissed because he didn't have enough lions to like rip people apart with and shit. And that was, other people's triumphs and stuff. But bread and circus is kind of like the core of Rome. But the emperors took it on as well. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's the concept of like the Super Bowl as an example.
I think people just like that. Whatever circus or whatever the hell that means. I think people like that normally. Like we were about that. Whatever circus is.
Yeah, well, the concept of it I'm just gonna, unless someone else wants to chime in on it that might correct me better about bread and circuses. It's what's going on now, but when a particular event is like the public is getting outraged by what's happening in politics and the economy and all that, blah blah blah. The list goes on. Then what they do is they figure out, oh, bread and circuses. We'll give them bread, food, water, and we'll have these events that will occur in order to distract people. And the only movie I've ever seen that actually demonstrated this perfectly, well, was the movie Gladiator. That's when. Yeah,
What about the Hunger Games?
That's similar, but it's not directly associated with like Rome. But Gladiator with Russell Crowe and Joaquin Phoenix, and I forget who else major people are in it. But as soon as he becomes anointed as the new emperor of Rome, it was 90 days of basically just circuses. And it's to distract the public from what was really going bad.
But like, can't you see like all these other things being used to try to distract us? Like, Venezuela, tariffs, all these other things flooding the zone. And it seems as if, the administration's position on the Epstein files has shifted so many different times. I would think that this is what we're trying to be distracted from, more than it being the distraction.
So you're saying that we're being distracted from the Epstein files, or the Epstein files or they are the distraction?
I think they're trying to distract us from the Epstein files. You have Trump saying, "Why does everybody still care?" and all this other stuff. I don't think they're utilizing it as a distraction. They're trying to use other things to distract us from looking and finding out his level of implication, which is like over 2,000 times they said his name or something like that.
31,000 times, I think, is what they're saying.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah, well, some people have actually got they ran it through a compiler, and you can just do a keyword search, like you can just upload it to Adobe Acrobat as an example, and then from there you just type in Trump, and then it's like 31,000 times or something.
And we also only have 3 million out of the 6 million files.
And that's the thing. It's like at what point do we say, okay, we don't know what's going on here, but it looks very interesting that there's 31,000 mentions. There's been like over 1 million hours of work by the FBI redacting documents against court orders. Like, when do we start like actually getting the facts and talking about that instead of just automatically protecting Donald Trump for being a pedophile?
Well, it doesn't say that. Matter of fact, it said that he was the first person to one of the first to report Epstein's problem in to the Palm Beach police. Matter of fact, that he was that Epstein was livid when he found out that he was one of the ones that reported. So how is it he's a pedophile?
How is it that he's a pedophile?
Yeah.
There's multiple reports and potential criminal charges against him from underage people that he had sexual relationships with.
It was 2019 and 17 or something like when they reported him when he started running. Yeah, when he started running locally.
No, I don't understand is why no one else is calling like Andrew Tate a pedophile when he normally bragged about having sex with 15 and 16-year-olds.
I call him a pedophile.
Yeah, but like Trump had him taken out of freaking Romania and brought to the United States to save him. Like it's just wild that no one cares about that.
Oh, I think Andrew Tate got beat up by one of the worst kickboxers ever. You know, he's old, but yeah, I think he's a pedophile. I think he's a piece of shit. But I mean, he's not the president of the United States. He's not ruining countries. He's not ruining generations of treaties, and he's not.
No, I'm not saying like. I'm saying like why? Why no one? Why does no one care that
wild shit? And
why does no one care that Trump saved him?
Because no one cares about that. But I would say this. He said, "What treaties?" You're looking at what we're doing with Greenland. That would be our treaty with NATO, correct? You look at our trade treaties that we've established for the last 80 years. You look at the world order.
We're the one in deficit, and everybody else is just feeding off of us. Get out of here, bro.
Fine. Let's talk about the treaty that Trump himself negotiated with the United States and Canada. He broke that treaty.
Yes.
So,
like I said,
do we think all politicians, like, doesn't matter if they're left or right, like all politicians are obviously protecting these files from coming out?
I would say more right than left, but I would say I wouldn't say all politicians don't want them out. I would say some of them don't because they're probably implicated.
Wait,
in some form or fashion.
We just had how many? Hold on. So we just had 4 years of Biden in the office. Why didn't it come out then?
Because the investigation was still ongoing. The investigation was still ongoing.
I was going to make. That's the point I was trying to get at. Epstein isn't new, right? We understand that the left owned, right? It was a left administration. Now it's a right administration. So the only logical conclusion both sides are fucking protecting this shit. They're
You don't
both
release
covering
files.
it up.
You don't
because
release
they're
files on an
both in it.
ongoing investigation. You don't release files on an ongoing investigation.
Yeah, so nothing ever came to light, right? The only reason you know what's in the files is because they got released during a right-wing administration.
No,
you don't have any
every
when
single
the Democrats
Republican
were running it. That's the part I don't understand.
Like 95% of all Republicans voted against releasing the files. It took a discharge petition by the Democrats and 3 other Republicans to have it forced on a vote. And then every single Republican had to vote yes, because otherwise, what are they going to say?
So
but
what
it was
happened when
it was
Biden was
Republicans
running it?
fighting. It was an ongoing investigation.
Right. So why wasn't anything released?
Because it was
exactly. It was being covered up.
Oh my!